Emily Carter sat in the sterile examination room, her fingers twisting the hem of her sweater as Dr. Helen Marquez flipped through her chart. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a cold glow on the linoleum floor. At 26, Emily had always been healthy, her life a quiet rhythm of graphic design deadlines, cozy evenings with her cat, Mochi, and the occasional coffee date with her best friend, Sarah. But the past few months had brought unexplained fatigue, joint pain, and a nagging sense that something was deeply wrong. Dr. Marquez adjusted her glasses, her expression softening with the kind of practiced empathy that made Emily's stomach churn. "Emily, we've got the results from your latest tests," she began, her voice steady but heavy. "It's a rare autoimmune condition called systemic lupus erythematosus, complicated by a secondary vasculitis. It's manageable with treatment, but there's something else we need to discuss." Emily's heart thudded against her ribcage. "Something else?" Her voice came out smaller than she intended. The doctor nodded, setting the chart down. "The vasculitis is affecting your reproductive system. Based on the progression, your fertility window is closing faster than we'd expect. You likely have less than a year before conception becomes nearly impossible. And even if you do conceive after that, pregnancy could be life-threatening." The words hit like a physical blow, stealing Emily's breath. She stared at the doctor, her mind racing to process the news. A year? She wasn't even dating anyone, hadn't been since her last relationship fizzled out 2 years ago. She'd always imagined kids someday, chubby hands and messy laughter, but the idea had been a distant dream, not an urgent deadline. "Are you sure?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. "There's no way to fix it? Slow it down?" Dr. Marquez leaned forward, her hands clasped. "We can manage the symptoms with medication, and we'll do everything to keep you stable. But the fertility issue is time-sensitive. If having a child is something you want, we should talk about your options now." Emily's mind spun. Options. She wasn't ready for this, not the diagnosis, not the ticking clock. "What kind of options?" she asked, forcing herself to focus. "Fertility treatments, sperm donors, egg freezing if you want to delay but preserve the possibility," Dr. Marquez explained. "I know it's overwhelming, but you don't have to decide today. Take some time, think about what you want." Emily nodded numbly, her fingers tightening around her sweater. "Can I have a minute?" "Of course," Dr. Marquez said, standing. "I'll be back in a bit. Take all the time you need." The door clicked shut, leaving Emily alone with her thoughts. She pressed her palms to her eyes, willing the tears to stay back. A year. She'd always thought she'd have time to find the right person, to build a life first. Now, that future was slipping away. She thought of her small apartment, her quiet evenings sketching logos for clients, the way Mochi curled up on her lap. It was a good life, but it wasn't enough, not when she imagined a future without the possibility of a family. By the time Dr. Marquez returned, Emily had made a decision. It was impulsive, maybe reckless, but it felt right. "I want to try," she said, her voice steadier now. "I want to have a baby, on my own if I have to." Dr. Marquez smiled, a mix of pride and caution in her eyes. "That's a brave choice, Emily. Let's set up an appointment with a fertility specialist. They'll guide you through the process." As Emily left the clinic, the weight of her decision settled over her. She wasn't just choosing motherhood, she was choosing to face an uncertain future head-on. For the first time in months, she felt a spark of hope. 2 weeks later, Emily sat in the waiting room of the Crestview Fertility Clinic, a glossy binder open on her lap. The room was warm, decorated with soft pastels and framed photos of smiling babies, but Emily's nerves were a live wire. She'd spent days researching sperm donors online, reading profiles until her eyes blurred, but nothing had prepared her for the weight of this moment. A nurse called her name, and Emily followed her to a consultation room where Dr. Lisa Chen, the fertility specialist, waited with a kind smile. "Emily, it's great to see you," Dr. Chen said, gesturing to a chair. How are you feeling about this? Overwhelmed, Emily admitted, clutching the binder. I thought it'd be easier to pick someone, but it's weird, choosing a stranger to be part of my kid's DNA? Dr. Chen nodded, her dark eyes understanding. It's a big decision. The profiles are designed to give you as much information as possible: health history, education, personality traits. Some even include personal statements. Have you found any you're drawn to? Emily flipped through the binder, her fingers pausing on a page marked donor #314A. She'd come back to this profile multiple times, though she couldn't quite explain why. This one, she said, sliding the page toward Dr. Chen. He seems different. Dr. Chen scanned the profile, her lips curving slightly. Donor #314A. Excellent health. No genetic red flags. High IQ. He's a popular choice. Let's see. She read aloud from the personal statement. I believe in leaving the world better than I found it. I'm driven, curious, and value family above all else. Sounds like a good guy. Emily's cheeks warmed. The words felt personal, almost intimate, though she knew they were meant to be vague. He sounds kind, she said softly. And healthy, which is important with my condition. His medical history is impeccable, Dr. Chen confirmed. No autoimmune issues, no chronic diseases. He's also tall, athletic, with a background in engineering. Anything else you want to know? Emily hesitated. The profile listed physical traits: 6'2", brown hair, hazel eyes, but nothing about his face, his laugh, his quirks. She wondered what kind of man wrote those words, what drove him to donate. Is there anything else he wrote? Anything personal? Dr. Chen shook her head. That's all we have. Donors remain anonymous to protect everyone involved. But if you're feeling a connection to this one, that's a good sign. Trust your instincts. Emily traced her finger over the donor number. #314A. It was just a code, but it felt like a lifeline. Okay, she said, her voice firm. I choose him. Dr. Chen smiled. Great, we'll schedule the insemination for your next cycle. In the meantime, we'll run some final tests to make sure you're ready. Sound good? Emily nodded, her heart racing with a mix of fear and excitement. Yeah, let's do this. As she left the clinic, the binder tucked under her arm, Emily felt a strange sense of calm. She was taking control of her future, building a family on her terms. But as she stepped into the crisp autumn air, a shiver ran down her spine, like someone was watching her. She glanced around, seeing only the usual bustle of the city, and shook it off. It was just nerves, she told herself. Nothing more. The morning of the insemination, Emily woke to Mochi purring against her chest, the cat's warmth grounding her. She'd barely slept, her mind buzzing with what-ifs. What if it didn't work? What if her body couldn't handle it? She pushed the thoughts aside, focusing on the hope that had carried her this far. At the clinic, Dr. Chen greeted her with a reassuring smile. Ready? She asked, leading Emily to a procedure room. As I'll ever be, Emily replied, trying to sound braver than she felt. She changed into a gown, her hands trembling as she tied the strings. The procedure was quick, clinical, almost anticlimactic. Dr. Chen explained each step, inserting the catheter, releasing the sample, but Emily's mind was elsewhere, imagining the tiny spark of life that might take root. When it was over, she lay still, staring at the ceiling, her heart pounding with possibility. Rest for a few minutes, Dr. Chen said, adjusting the bed. Then you're free to go. We'll do a pregnancy test in 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Emily asked, her voice catching. That feels like forever. Dr. Chen chuckled. It'll fly by. Try to relax, keep stress low. Your body's doing important work. Emily nodded, but relaxing felt impossible. She spent the next 2 weeks in a haze, sketching designs for a new client project but barely focusing. Sarah dragged her out for coffee one afternoon, sensing her distraction. Okay, Spill. Sarah said, stirring sugar into her latte. You've been a zombie all week. Is it the procedure? Emily sighed, tracing the rim of her cup. Yeah, I keep wondering if it worked. If I'm, pregnant. It's all I can think about. Sarah reached across the table, squeezing her hand. You're going to be an amazing mom, Em. And if it doesn't work this time, you'll try again. You're tough as hell. Emily smiled, her eyes stinging. Thanks, Sarah. I want this so bad. I didn't realize how much until now. When the 2-week mark arrived, Emily returned to the clinic, her heart in her throat. Dr. Chen greeted her with a grin. Good news, Emily, you're pregnant. The words washed over her, warm and surreal. Really? She whispered, tears spilling over. Really, Dr. Chen said, handing her a tissue. We'll monitor you closely because of your condition, but everything looks good so far. Emily left the clinic in a daze, her hand resting on her stomach. She was going to be a mother. The thought filled her with joy, but also a quiet fear. Her body was already fighting itself. Could it handle this? She pushed the doubt away, focusing on the life growing inside her. For now, that was enough. By her 8th week, Emily noticed something strange. Her clothes were already tight, her belly rounding far more than the baby book suggested. She stood in front of her bathroom mirror, lifting her shirt to study the gentle curve. This can't be normal, she muttered, mochi weaving between her legs. At her next appointment, Dr. Chen frowned as she measured Emily's abdomen. You're showing like you're closer to 16 weeks, she said, her tone careful. Let's do an ultrasound to check. Emily lay on the exam table, the gel cold against her skin. The ultrasound screen flickered to life, revealing a tiny, pulsing shape. That's your baby, Dr. Chen said, smiling. Heartbeat strong, but the growth rate is unusual. I'd like to run some blood tests. Unusual how? Emily asked, her voice sharp with worry. It's growing faster than expected, Dr. Chen admitted. It could be a lab error with the donor sample, or maybe your condition is affecting things. We'll figure it out. Emily nodded, but unease settled in her chest. That night she lay awake, her hand on her belly. The baby kicked, a tiny flutter, too early for a normal pregnancy. She Googled rapid fetal growth, but the results only deepened her anxiety. Hormonal imbalances, genetic anomalies, nothing that fit. The next morning she called Sarah. Something's wrong, she said, her voice shaking. The baby's growing too fast, and the doctor doesn't know why. Okay, breathe, Sarah said, her voice steady. You're seeing the best doctors, right? They'll figure it out. Maybe it's just a super healthy kid. Emily laughed weakly. Maybe, but it's freaking me out. Want me to come over? Sarah offered. We can binge that vampire show you love and pretend you're just turning into a werewolf or something. Emily forced a smile. Tempting, but I'm okay. Just keep your phone on, yeah, Juno? I will, Sarah promised. And Em? You've got this. Whatever's going on, you're not alone. Hanging up, Emily felt a little lighter. But as she drifted to sleep that night, the strange dreams started again. A golden-eyed man, his voice low and urgent, calling her name. She woke gasping, her heart racing, the word mate echoing in her mind. Emily's dreams grew more vivid each night. The golden-eyed man was always there, his presence both comforting and unsettling. He never spoke much, just watched her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. By her 10th week, the dreams felt so real she woke expecting to see him standing in her room. Her symptoms were worsening too. Her sense of smell was razor sharp. She could detect the neighbors cooking from across the hall. Her emotions swung wildly, from euphoria to inexplicable tears. And her belly, now impossibly round, drew stares at the grocery store. At her next appointment, Dr. Chen's concern was palpable. Your blood work shows elevated hormone levels, she said, studying the results. It's not dangerous yet, but it's unusual. The baby's growth is still accelerated. We need to monitor you weekly. Is it my lupus? Emily asked, her voice tight. Possibly, Dr. Chen said, but it's behaving differently than we'd expect. I'm consulting a specialist. In the meantime, rest as much as you can. That night, the full moon hung low in the sky, casting a silver glow through Emily's window. She felt restless, her baby kicking harder than ever. She stepped onto her balcony, the cool air soothing her flushed skin. The moon seemed to pulse, drawing her in, and she closed her eyes, letting its light wash over her. Emily, a voice whispered, deep and resonant. Her eyes snapped open. No one was there, but her heart raced. She clutched the railing, her senses buzzing. The baby kicked again, a sharp jab that made her gasp. Okay, little one, she murmured, rubbing her belly. What's going on with you? The next day, she called Dr. Chen. I'm feeling weird, she admitted. My senses are all over the place, and the baby's moving like crazy under the moon. Is that normal? There was a pause. The moon? Dr. Chen asked, her tone curious. That's interesting. It could be hormonal fluctuations. Write down when it happens and we'll discuss it next week. Emily hung up, unconvinced. The dreams, the symptoms, the moon, it all felt connected, but how? She opened her laptop, searching for answers, but found nothing that matched. Frustrated, she closed her eyes, and the golden-eyed man appeared again, his voice a low growl. You're mine. She jolted awake, her heart pounding. What the hell is happening to me? She whispered, her hand on her belly. The baby kicked in response, as if it knew something she didn't. Rowan Hale stood in the dimly lit office of the Crestview Fertility Clinic, his broad shoulders tense under his leather jacket, as he glared at the trembling administrator, Dr. Alan Weaver. The air was thick with the scent of antiseptic and fear, the latter emanating from the man behind the desk. Rowan's golden hazel eyes burned with barely restrained fury, his fists clenched at his sides. As the alpha of the Ashridge pack, he was used to commanding respect, but this was a betrayal of cosmic proportions. You're telling me my donation was used without my consent? Rowan's voice was low, a growl that made the papers on Dr. Weaver's desk quiver. I was assured anonymity and control. Explain how this happened. Dr. Weaver adjusted his tie, sweat beading on his forehead. Mr. Hale, it was a clerical error. A mix-up in the database. Your sample was marked for research only, but it was mistakenly released to a patient. Rowan leaned forward, his hands slamming onto the desk, making Dr. Weaver flinch. A patient who's now pregnant with my child. A human. Do you have any idea what you've done? I understand your concern, Dr. Weaver stammered, pushing his glasses up his nose. We're investigating how this happened. The patient, Emily Carter, was informed the donor was anonymous. She has no idea. Emily Carter, Rowan repeated, the name searing into his mind. His child, his heir, was growing inside a human woman who didn't even know what he was. The implications were catastrophic. An alpha's bloodline was sacred, meant to be passed on deliberately, not scattered to unsuspecting humans. And a hybrid child? That was uncharted territory, dangerous in ways even he couldn't fully predict. What's done is done, Rowan said, his voice cold. Give me her file, now. Dr. Weaver hesitated, then handed over a thin folder. Legally, we can't disclose. Legally, Rowan snapped, his eyes flashing with a predatory glint. You violated my trust. You don't get to lecture me about laws. Hand it over or I'll tear this place apart. The administrator complied, his hands shaking. Rowan flipped open the file, scanning the details. Emily Carter, 26, graphic designer, diagnosed with a rare autoimmune condition. A photo was clipped to the page. Dark hair, green eyes, a determined set to her jaw. She looked fragile yet fierce, and something in Rowan's chest stirred, an instinct he couldn't name. Back at the Ashridge Pack's compound, A sprawling estate hidden deep in the Oregon woods. Rowan gathered his inner circle: Lila, the pack's healer, and Marcus, his beta. The fire in the meeting room crackled as Rowan paced, the folder still in his hand. "This is a disaster," Marcus said, leaning back in his chair, his dark eyes narrowed. "A human carrying an alpha's child? If the rogues find out, they'll come for her." "I know," Rowan growled, tossing the folder onto the table. "That's why I'm going to find her. She needs protection, whether she likes it or not." Lila, her silver hair braided tightly, frowned at the file. "A human with an autoimmune disease carrying a hybrid? Rowan, this could kill her. Her body might not handle the accelerated growth." Rowan's jaw tightened. He'd lost his fated mate, Clara, 3 years ago to a rogue attack, and the guilt still gnawed at him. He'd donated his sperm under a false identity to preserve his bloodline, a desperate act to ensure the pack's future without risking another mate. Now, that choice had backfired. "I won't let that happen," he said. "She's carrying my heir. I'll keep her alive." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "And if she doesn't want your protection? Humans don't exactly take kindly to werewolves showing up at their door." "Then I'll convince her," Rowan said, his voice resolute. "She doesn't get a choice in this, not with my child at stake." As he left the compound, the full moon hung heavy in the sky, tugging at his wolf. He could feel the pull of his unborn child, a faint but undeniable connection. Emily Carter didn't know it yet, but her life was about to change forever. Emily was sketching at her kitchen table, Mochi curled up on a chair, when a sharp knock startled her. It was late, nearly 9 p.m., and she wasn't expecting anyone. Her pregnancy had made her jumpy, the dreams and strange symptoms amplifying her unease. She set down her pencil, her hand instinctively resting on her rounded belly, and peered through the peephole. A man stood outside, tall and broad-shouldered, his dark hair tousled and his leather jacket straining against his frame. His eyes, even through the distorted lens, seemed to glow faintly. Emily's heart skipped, a mix of fear and something she couldn't name. "Who is it?" she called, her voice sharp. "Rowan Hale," he replied, his voice deep and commanding, sending a shiver down her spine. "We need to talk, Emily. It's important." She froze. How did he know her name? "I don't know you," she said, keeping the chain on the door as she cracked it open. "What do you want?" His eyes locked onto hers, intense and unyielding. "It's about your baby. My baby." Emily's breath caught, her hand tightening on the doorknob. "What the hell are you talking about? I don't know you and my baby." "Is mine," Rowan interrupted, his voice softening but firm. "I'm donor #314A. There was a mistake at the clinic. I need to explain." Her mind reeled. Donor #314A? The kind-sounding engineer with the impeccable health record? This man looked like he could bench press a car, not sit at a desk coding software. "You're lying," she said, stepping back. "The donor was anonymous. This is some kind of scam." "It's not a scam," Rowan said, his tone urgent. He held up a folder, the clinic's logo visible. "I have proof. Let me in, Emily. You're not safe." "Not safe?" she snapped, her fear morphing into anger. "You show up at my door, claiming you're the father of my kid, and expect me to just let you in? I'm calling the cops." Rowan's jaw tightened, but he didn't move. "Call them if you want, but they can't protect you from what's coming. Your pregnancy isn't normal. You've noticed, haven't you? The rapid growth, the dreams?" Emily's blood ran cold. How did he know about the dreams? She gripped the door, her voice shaking. "Who are you?" "I'm the man who's going to keep you alive," Rowan said, his eyes softening slightly. "Please, Emily, 5 minutes. Hear me out." Against her better judgment, she unhooked the chain and stepped back, keeping her phone in hand. "5 minutes," she said. "And if you try anything, I'm not afraid to scream." Rowan stepped inside, his presence filling the small apartment. Mochi hissed and bolted under the couch. Emily crossed her arms, trying to ignore the way her pulse raced, not entirely from fear. Rowan stood in Emily's living room, his imposing figure at odds with the cozy space filled with sketchbooks and throw pillows. Emily stayed near the kitchen counter, her phone still clutched tightly, her green eyes wary. The air between them crackled with tension, her fear warring with a strange pull she couldn't explain. "Start talking," she said, her voice sharp. "And don't lie, I'll know." Rowan nodded, setting the folder on her coffee table. "I'm not here to hurt you, Emily. But what I'm about to say will sound insane. I need you to listen." She raised an eyebrow, her heart pounding. "I'm listening, for now." He took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving hers. "I'm not just donor hashtag 314A. I'm a werewolf. An alpha, leader of my pack. The clinic wasn't supposed to release my sample to anyone, especially not a human. But they did, and now you're carrying my child, a hybrid." Emily stared, her mouth opening, then closing. A laugh burst out, sharp and disbelieving. "A werewolf? Are you serious? Is this a prank? Did Sarah put you up to this?" "It's not a prank," Rowan said, his voice steady. "You felt it, haven't you? The baby's growing too fast. Your senses are sharper, you're dreaming of me." Her laughter died, her face paling. "How do you know about my dreams?" "Because I'm having them too," he said, stepping closer. She backed up, bumping into the counter. "It's the bond. Our child is connecting us, pulling us together. You've seen my eyes, haven't you? Golden under the moon." Emily's knees weakened, the dreams flooding back. The golden-eyed man, his voice calling her mate. "This is crazy," she whispered. "You're crazy." Rowan opened the folder, sliding a medical report toward her. "Look at the dates. My donation was marked for research, but it was used for you. The baby's growth rate, your symptoms, they're not human. They're part wolf." She snatched the paper, scanning it. The clinic's logo, her name, donor hashtag 314A. It was real. Her hands shook as she set it down. "This doesn't prove you're a werewolf. It proves someone screwed up." Rowan's eyes softened, almost pitying. "I can show you, but it'll scare you. I don't want that, not yet." "Show me what?" she snapped, her voice rising. "You think I'm going to believe you turn into a dog?" "Not a dog," he said, a hint of amusement in his tone. "A wolf. And I don't expect you to believe me yet. But you need to trust me on one thing. You're in danger. My kind, others like me, they'll come for the child." Emily's hand flew to her belly, protective. "Why? Why would anyone care about my baby?" "Because it's not just a baby," Rowan said. "It's a hybrid alpha heir. The first in history. There are those who'd kill to control it, or destroy it." She shook her head, backing toward the door. "Get out. I don't know what game you're playing, but I want no part of it." Rowan didn't move. "I'm not leaving you unprotected. You don't understand the stakes yet, but you will. I'm staying close, Emily, whether you like it or not." "Get out!" she shouted, her voice breaking. Moki yowled from under the couch, sensing her distress. Rowan raised his hands, stepping back. "I'll go, for now, but I'll be watching. You'll see I'm telling the truth." He left the folder and walked out, the door clicking shut behind him. Emily sank to the floor, her heart racing. The baby kicked, hard, as if echoing Rowan's words. She didn't believe him, not yet, but the dreams, the symptoms, the folder. Something was wrong. And deep down, she feared he was right. The next morning, Emily woke to the sound of her phone buzzing. Sarah's name flashed on the screen, and she answered, her voice hoarse. "Hey." "Em, you sound like death," Sarah said, concern lacing her tone. "What's wrong? Is it the baby?" Emily hesitated, the events of last night replaying in her mind. She couldn't tell Sarah about Rowan, not yet. "Just a rough night. The pregnancy's getting weirder. I'm seeing the doctor again tomorrow." Want me to come with you? Sarah offered. I can ditch work. No, I'm okay, Emily said, forcing a smile into her voice. I'll call you after. After hanging up, she glanced at the folder Rowan had left. She hadn't touched it since he'd gone, but curiosity won out. She flipped through it, finding more documents, lab reports, a handwritten note from Dr. Weaver apologizing for the error. It was too real to be a hoax, but werewolves? She shook her head, shoving the folder into a drawer. A knock at the door made her jump. She checked the peephole, her heart sinking. Rowan again, this time in a dark Henley that clung to his muscles. She opened the door a crack. I told you to stay away. I know, Rowan said, his voice calmer than last night. But I meant what I said. You're not safe. I'm not here to scare you, Emily. I'm here to protect you. I don't need your protection, she snapped, though her voice wavered. I've been taking care of myself my whole life. Rowan's eyes softened, but his stance was unyielding. Not against what's coming. You felt the baby last night, under the moon. It's not human, Emily, it's mine. Stop saying that, she said, her voice rising. This is my baby. I chose this. You don't get to just show up and claim it. I'm not claiming it, Rowan said, his tone sharp now. I'm claiming responsibility. You don't know my world, but it's dangerous. There are others, rogues, who'd hurt you to get to that child. Emily's hand tightened on the door. You keep talking about rogues. Who are they? Why should I believe you? Rowan glanced down the hall, his jaw tight. They're wolves without a pack, driven by power. They'd see a hybrid alpha as a threat, or a weapon. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to stay alive. She wanted to slam the door, but something in his eyes, desperation, maybe, held her back. If I let you stay, what happens? You follow me around like a bodyguard? Something like that, he said, a faint smile tugging at his lips. I'll keep my distance, but I need to be close. For you and the baby. Emily's mind raced. She didn't trust him, but the dreams, the kicks, the folder, they all pointed to something she couldn't explain. Fine, she said finally. You can stay nearby. But you don't come in unless I say so. And if you're lying, I swear I'll make you regret it. Rowan nodded, his expression unreadable. Deal, I'll be outside. You won't even know I'm there. As he turned to leave, Emily called after him. Rowan? If you're telling the truth, what does this mean for my baby? He looked back, his eyes heavy. It means your life's about to get complicated, but I'll do everything to keep you both safe. She closed the door, her heart pounding. Complicated didn't begin to cover it. Emily tried to return to her routine, but Rowan's presence was a constant shadow. She spotted him across the street when she left for work, leaning against a black SUV, his eyes tracking her every move. It should have felt invasive, but there was something oddly reassuring about it, like a guard dog she hadn't asked for. At her next appointment, Dr. Chen's frown deepened as she reviewed the ultrasound. The baby's growth is still accelerated, she said, her voice tight. It's measuring closer to 20 weeks now, despite you being at 12. Emily, we need to consider more aggressive monitoring. Emily's stomach churned. Is it healthy? She asked, her hand on her belly. The baby's fine, Dr. Chen said, but her tone was cautious. Strong heartbeat, no abnormalities. But your body's under strain. Your lupus markers are elevated. I'm recommending a specialist in high-risk pregnancies. Emily nodded, her mind drifting to Rowan's words. Hybrid alpha heir. She hadn't told Dr. Chen about him. How could she? But as she left the clinic, Rowan was waiting, leaning against his SUV. You shouldn't be here, she said, crossing her arms. I said nearby, not stalking me. I'm not stalking, Rowan said, pushing off the vehicle. I felt you, the baby, you're stressed. Felt me? She asked, incredulous. What, like some psychic connection? Something like that, he said, his voice low. It's the bond. The baby's tying us together. You're feeling it too, aren't you? The pull? Emily's cheeks flushed. She had felt something, a warmth, a tug toward him, but she wasn't about to admit it. I'm feeling annoyed, she said, and scared. The doctor says the baby's growing too fast, and my body's struggling. If you're telling the truth, what does this mean? Rowan's face darkened. It means the hybrid blood is stronger than I thought. Your body's human. It's not built for this. But I can help, Emily. My pack has ways to ease the strain. Your pack? She said, her voice sharp. You expect me to trust a bunch of strangers who think they're wolves? Not strangers, he said. Family, and I'm not asking you to trust them. Trust me, I won't let anything happen to you or the baby. Emily studied him, his rugged features softened by sincerity. She wanted to believe him, but the idea of werewolves, packs, and hybrids was too much. I need time, she said finally. This is my life, Rowan, my baby. I don't even know you. I know, he said, his voice soft. But you will, and when you're ready, I'll show you what I am. Until then, I'm not going anywhere. As he walked back to his SUV, Emily felt the baby kick, a sharp jab that seemed to echo his presence. She didn't know what to believe, but one thing was clear. Her quiet life was gone, and Rowan Hale was only the beginning. Emily's life had become a tightrope walk between denial and dread. By her 14th week of pregnancy, her belly was impossibly round, straining the seams of her oversized sweaters. The rapid growth, coupled with Rowan's persistent warnings, kept her on edge. She tried to focus on her graphic design work, sketching logos at her cluttered kitchen table, but her sharpened senses, now picking up the faintest sounds and smells, made it hard to concentrate. The world felt too loud, too intense, and Rowan's constant presence didn't help. He was true to his word, staying close but not intrusive. She'd spot his black SUV parked across the street, or catch a glimpse of him lingering near the coffee shop where she met Sarah. His golden hazel eyes seemed to follow her everywhere, a silent promise of protection that both comforted and unnerved her. She hadn't seen him since their last tense conversation outside the clinic, but his words about rogues and danger echoed in her mind. One crisp October evening, Emily decided to clear her head with a walk to the corner store. The city was alive with the hum of traffic and the chatter of pedestrians, but she felt a prickle at the back of her neck, like she was being watched. She quickened her pace, clutching her purse, her hand instinctively resting on her belly. The baby kicked, a sharp jab that grounded her. At the store, she grabbed a carton of milk and a bag of cat food for Mochi, her thoughts drifting to the dreams that plagued her nights. The golden-eyed man. His voice calling her mate. She was so lost in thought that she didn't notice the man lingering near the checkout, until she nearly bumped into him. Sorry, she mumbled, stepping back. He was tall, lean, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that gleamed an unnatural silver under the fluorescent lights. His smile was cold, predatory, and her heart stuttered. No trouble, he said, his voice smooth but edged with something sinister. You're Emily, aren't you? Her blood ran cold. How do you know my name? She demanded, clutching the milk tighter. His smile widened, revealing slightly pointed canines. Just a guess, you're noticeable these days. His gaze flicked to her belly, lingering too long. Emily backed toward the counter, her pulse racing. Stay away from me, she said, her voice shaking but firm. The man raised his hands, mockingly placating. No need to get upset, just being friendly. He turned and slipped out the door, his movements too fluid, too silent. Emily paid quickly, her hands trembling, and hurried home, glancing over her shoulder every few steps. When she reached her apartment, she locked the door and leaned against it, her breath ragged. The baby kicked again, harder, as if sensing her fear. Her phone buzzed and she jumped. It was Sarah. Hey, you okay? Sarah asked, her voice bright. You didn't text after your appointment. Emily hesitated, the encounter at the store still fresh. Yeah, just tired. she lied. The baby's growing fast. Doctor's worried. Want me to come over? Sarah offered. We can order pizza, distract you from all this pregnancy stress. Emily forced a laugh. Tempting, but I'm okay. Just need to crash. I'll call you tomorrow. After hanging up, she sank onto the couch, Mochi curling up beside her. The silver-eyed man's face haunted her. Was he one of Rowan's rogues? She didn't want to believe in werewolves, but the pieces were starting to fit. The dreams, the baby's growth, the stranger's unnatural presence. A knock at the door made her jump. She checked the peephole, her heart sinking. Rowan. She opened the door a crack, her voice sharp. What now? You're scared, he said, his eyes scanning her face. I felt it. What happened? She wanted to slam the door, but the memory of the silver-eyed man stopped her. Someone followed me, she admitted, her voice low. At the store, he knew my name. Rowan's expression darkened, his fists clenching. Describe him. Tall, skinny, silver eyes, she said, shivering. He looked wrong, like he wasn't human. Rowan's jaw tightened. Rogue, probably one of Victor's scouts. I told you, Emily, you're not safe. Stop saying that, she snapped, opening the door wider. If I'm not safe, tell me why. No more cryptic warnings, I deserve answers. Rowan stepped inside, his presence filling the room. You're right. You deserve the truth. But it's not safe here anymore. Pack a bag, you're coming with me. No way, she said, crossing her arms. I'm not leaving my home because some creep freaked me out. Rowan's eyes flashed, his voice low. That creep could have taken you tonight. You and my child. I'm not asking, Emily. I'm telling you. She glared, her fear warring with defiance. You don't get to order me around. This is my life. And it's my heir, he shot back, then softened. Please, Emily. I know you don't trust me, but let me keep you safe. Just until we figure this out. She hesitated, the baby's kick urging her forward. Fine, she said finally. But I'm not moving in with you. I'll listen, but I'm not your prisoner. Rowan nodded, relief flickering in his eyes. Deal, I'll take you somewhere safe tomorrow. For now, I'm staying outside. As he left, Emily locked the door, her heart racing. She didn't know what to believe, but one thing was clear. The silver-eyed man wasn't a coincidence, and Rowan was her only shield. The next morning, Emily woke to a strange warmth in her chest, like a thread pulling her toward something, or someone. She brushed it off as nerves, but the feeling grew stronger as she packed a small bag, following Rowan's instructions. She hadn't agreed to leave permanently, but a night away felt safer after the store incident. Mochi meowed plaintively as she filled his food bowl, sensing her unease. Rowan was waiting outside, leaning against his SUV, his dark hair catching the morning light. Ready? He asked, his voice softer than usual. No, Emily admitted, slinging her bag over her shoulder. But I'm here. Where are we going? A safe house, he said, opening the passenger door. It's not far. You'll be comfortable. She climbed in, her hand on her belly. The baby kicked, and the warmth in her chest pulsed, stronger now. She glanced at Rowan, his profile sharp against the window, and the feeling intensified. What's happening to me? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Rowan glanced at her, his eyes narrowing. What do you mean? I feel... you, she said, her cheeks flushing. Like you're in my head. It's weird. He gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles whitening. It's the pseudo-bond. The baby's connecting us, amplifying your senses. It's not real, not like a true mate bond, but it's strong. A mate bond? She asked, incredulous. You keep throwing around these terms like I'm supposed to understand them. Rowan sighed, pulling onto the highway. A mate bond is a connection between wolves, fated by the moon. It's rare, powerful. The pseudo-bond is different, caused by the baby's alpha blood. It mimics the real thing, makes you feel drawn to me. Drawn to you? She said, her voice sharp. I don't even like you. He smirked, a rare glimpse of humor. Fair enough. But you feel it, don't you? The pull? She wanted to deny it, but the warmth in her chest was undeniable, a tug that grew stronger when he looked at her. It's just hormones, she said, crossing her arms. Pregnancy messes with your head. Maybe, he said, his tone unconvinced. But it's more than that. The baby's tying us together, whether we like it or not. They drove in silence, the city giving way to dense forest. Emily's mind raced, torn between skepticism and the undeniable strangeness of her pregnancy. The safe house was a cozy cabin nestled in the woods, its wooden exterior blending with the trees. Rowan carried her bag inside, his movements graceful but tense. This is it, he said, setting her bag on a plush couch. You'll be safe here. I'll stay in the guest room. Emily looked around, the cabin warm with soft lighting and rustic furniture. This is your idea of a safe house? Looks like a vacation rental. It's warded, Rowan said, his tone serious. Protected by pack magic. No rogue can cross the boundary without me knowing. Magic? She said, raising an eyebrow. You're really leaning into this werewolf thing? He met her gaze, his eyes intense. You'll see it soon enough. For now, rest. You're exhausted. She wanted to argue, but her body betrayed her, a wave of fatigue washing over her. Fine, she said, sinking onto the couch. But I'm not staying long. Rowan nodded, his expression unreadable. Get some sleep, Emily. We'll talk more tomorrow. As he left the room, the warmth in her chest pulsed again, and she cursed under her breath. Hormones or not, Rowan Hale was getting under her skin. Emily woke to sunlight streaming through the cabin's windows, the scent of pine and coffee filling the air. Her body ached, her joints stiff from her lupus flare, and her belly felt heavier than ever. She rubbed it absently, the baby kicking in response. The pseudo-bond tugged at her, urging her to find Rowan, but she ignored it, focusing on the pain instead. She found him in the kitchen, pouring coffee into a mug. He looked up, his eyes softening. Morning, you okay? No, she admitted, wincing as she sat at the table. I feel like I got hit by a truck. My joints are killing me, and the baby's kicking like it's training for the Olympics. Rowan's brow furrowed, and he set a mug in front of her. Decaf, he said. Your condition's flaring because of the pregnancy. The hybrid blood is pushing your body too hard. Don't start with the werewolf stuff again, she said. But her voice lacked conviction. She sipped the coffee, grateful for the warmth. I have an appointment tomorrow. The doctor's worried about the growth rate. Then I'm coming with you, Rowan said, his tone leaving no room for argument. If it's a flare, I can help. My pack has healers who know how to handle this. Emily glared. I'm not letting some stranger poke at me because you think they're magic. Not magic, he said, leaning against the counter. Energy. Alphas have a connection to their pack, a strength we can share. It could stabilize you. She laughed, sharp and bitter. You sound like a new age guru. I'll stick with real doctors, thanks. Rowan's jaw tightened, but he didn't push. Fine, but if the doctor can't help, you'll listen to me. Deal? She hesitated, the pain in her joints making her reconsider. Maybe, but don't get your hopes up. The next day at the clinic, Dr. Chen's face was grim as she reviewed Emily's blood work. Your lupus markers are spiking, she said, her voice tight. The pregnancy's accelerating your symptoms. We need to start you on a stronger immunosuppressive, but it's risky for the baby. Emily's heart sank, her hand on her belly. Risky how? It could slow the baby's growth, but it might also cause complications, Dr. Chen said. We're in uncharted territory with this pregnancy. I'm recommending a hospital stay for monitoring. Hospital? Emily said, her voice trembling. For how long? A few days, maybe more, Dr. Chen said. We need to get this under control. Rowan, who'd been silent in the corner, spoke up. There's another way. My people can help her without drugs. Dr. Chen raised an eyebrow, glancing at Emily. Your people? He's a friend, Emily said quickly, shooting Rowan a glare. He's into alternative medicine. I see, Dr. Chen said, unconvinced. Emily, it's your call, but I strongly recommend the hospital. Emily's mind raced. The idea of a hospital stay terrified her, but Rowan's healers sounded like a fantasy. I need to think about it, she said finally. Can I have a day? Dr. Chen nodded. One day, but don't wait too long. In the car, Rowan's silence was heavy. You're making a mistake, he said finally. My healer Lila can stabilize you. I've seen it work. And I've seen doctors save lives, Emily snapped. I'm not betting my baby's life on your fairy tales. It's not a fairy tale, he said, his voice low. It's your reality now. You felt that rogue last night. You feel me. You know I'm not lying. Emily looked away, the pseudo-bond pulsing in her chest. Just drive, she said, her voice breaking. She didn't know what to believe, but her body was failing her and time was running out. The cabin felt less like a prison and more like a refuge as Emily's symptoms worsened. By evening, her joints were so stiff she could barely move, and the baby's kicks were relentless. Rowan hovered nearby, his worry palpable, but he kept his distance, respecting her boundaries. I'm calling Lila, he said finally, pulling out his phone. You don't have to agree to anything, but let her explain. Please. Emily sighed, too tired to argue. Fine, but if she tries to wave crystals over me, I'm out. Rowan's lips twitched, almost a smile. No crystals, I promise. An hour later, Lila arrived, a petite woman with silver hair and warm brown eyes that seemed to see too much. She carried a leather satchel, her movements calm but purposeful. You must be Emily, she said, her voice soothing. I'm Lila, the pack's healer. May I sit? Emily nodded, gesturing to the couch. Rowan says you can help me. I'm not sure I believe him. Lila smiled, setting her satchel down. That's fair. You're human, and this is all new. But your baby's not human, not entirely. It's why your body's struggling. Emily's hand rested on her belly, protective. What do you mean, struggling? Lila leaned forward, her voice gentle. Your child has alpha blood, strong and wild. It's growing faster than a human body can handle, especially with your condition. Lupus is an immune response, and the baby's energy is triggering it. Emily's throat tightened. So it's hurting me. Not intentionally, Lila said. But it's powerful. I can teach you to manage it using pack techniques. Rowan's energy, as alpha, can help stabilize you. Emily glanced at Rowan, who stood by the window, his arms crossed. He mentioned that. But how? What's this energy? It's hard to explain to a human, Lila said, her tone patient. Think of it as a life force tied to the moon and the pack. Alphas can share it, strengthen those they protect. It's not a cure, but it can ease your symptoms. Emily frowned, skeptical. And what's the catch? No catch, Lila said. But it means trusting Rowan, letting him close. The bond you're feeling, it's real, even if it's not what you want. Emily's cheeks flushed, the pseudo-bond pulsing again. I don't even know him. I know, Lila said, her eyes kind. But he's your child's father, and he's bound to you now. Let me try something small to show you. Lila placed a hand on Emily's arm, her touch warm. A faint hum spread through Emily's body, easing the ache in her joints. She gasped, pulling back. What was that? A taste of pack energy, Lila said, smiling. I can't do much without Rowan's strength, but he can, if you let him. Emily looked at Rowan, his eyes locked on her, intense but not demanding. I'll think about it, she said finally. But I'm not ready. Lila nodded, standing. That's enough for now. I'll leave you some herbs, they're safe, just to help you sleep. Call me if you need me. As Lila left, Rowan approached, his voice soft. You felt it, didn't you? She's not lying. Emily's eyes stung, overwhelmed. Maybe. But I need time, Rowan. This is too much. He nodded, stepping back. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. The next day, Emily woke feeling slightly better, Lila's herbs easing her into a dreamless sleep for the first time in weeks. The cabin was quiet, sunlight filtering through the trees outside. She found Rowan on the porch, sharpening a knife, his movements precise and focused. You don't have to babysit me, she said, leaning against the doorframe. I'm not going anywhere. He looked up, his eyes catching the light. I'm not babysitting, I'm making sure no one gets to you. She rolled her eyes, but the memory of the silver-eyed man made her shiver. You really think that guy's coming back? Not him specifically, Rowan said, setting the knife down. But others like him. Victor's pack is ruthless. They'll want the baby. Why? She asked, sitting on a porch chair, her hands on her belly. What's so special about my baby? Rowan hesitated, then sat across from her, his voice low. It's not just a hybrid. It's an alpha heir, the first of its kind. Alphas are born, not made, and their blood carries power, strength, leadership, connection to the moon. A hybrid alpha could change everything. For my pack, it's hope. For rogues, it's a threat. Emily's chest tightened, the baby kicking as if in agreement. So they, what? Try to take it? Or worse, Rowan said, his eyes dark. That's why I'm here. Why I'll always be here. She studied him, the hard lines of his face softened by something she couldn't name. Duty, maybe, or something deeper. The pseudo-bond pulsed, warm and insistent, and she looked away, her cheeks heating. You don't even know me, she said. Why do you care so much? Rowan leaned forward, his voice rough. Because you're carrying my child. Because I've lost too much to let anything happen to you. And because... He trailed off, his eyes searching hers. Because what? She pressed, her heart racing. He stood abruptly, breaking the moment. Nothing. Get some rest. I'll make lunch. Emily watched him go, the warmth in her chest lingering. She didn't want to feel this way, drawn to a man who claimed to be a wolf, who turned her world upside down. But as she sat on the porch, the baby kicking softly, she felt a spark of something new. Not just fear, but possibility. Emily's days at the cabin had settled into an uneasy rhythm. By her 16th week of pregnancy, her belly was so pronounced she could no longer hide it under loose sweaters. The lupus flare had eased slightly, thanks to Lila's herbs, but the baby's relentless kicks and the persistent pull of the pseudo-bond kept her on edge. Rowan remained a constant presence, his SUV parked outside, or his silhouette visible through the trees, watching but never intruding unless she allowed it. She hated how much his vigilance reassured her, even as it grated against her independence. That afternoon, Emily decided she needed a break from the cabin's confines. I'm going to the store, she announced, grabbing her purse. Rowan, sharpening a knife at the kitchen table, looked up sharply. Not alone, he said, his voice firm. I'll drive you. I'm not a prisoner, Rowan, she snapped, her hand on her hip. I can handle a quick trip to town. His golden hazel eyes narrowed, the knife still in his hand. You saw what happened last time. The rogue at the store wasn't a coincidence. Victor's pack is watching you. Emily's stomach twisted at the memory of the silver-eyed man, his predatory smile. Fine, she said, her voice tight. But you stay in the car. I don't need you hovering. Rowan's jaw clenched, but he nodded. Deal. But if anything feels off, you call me. The drive to the small town nearby was silent, the forest blurring past the windows. At the grocery store, Emily grabbed a basket, determined to act normal despite the weight of Rowan's warnings. She was reaching for a box of cereal when a shadow loomed behind her, too close for comfort. She turned, her heart lurching. The man was different from the one at the corner store. Shorter, broader, with a scar cutting across his cheek and eyes that glinted like polished steel. He leaned against the shelf, blocking her path, his smile chilling. "You're the human carrying the alpha's pup," he said, his voice low and guttural. "Didn't think you'd be so easy to find." Emily's breath caught, her hand tightening on the basket. "Get away from me," she said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. The man stepped closer, his scent sharp and musky, like damp earth and metal. "Victor sends his regards. That pup of yours, it's gonna change everything." Emily backed away, her free hand on her belly, the baby kicking frantically. "I don't know what you're talking about," she lied, glancing toward the store's entrance. "Where was Rowan?" "Don't play dumb," the man growled, his eyes flashing. "You're marked now, nowhere's safe." Before she could scream, a blur of motion tackled the man to the ground. Rowan. His strength was terrifying, pinning the rogue with a snarl that was more animal than human. The store clerk shouted, and shoppers scattered, but Emily stood frozen, her heart pounding. "Stay back," Rowan growled at her, his voice barely human as he restrained the rogue. The man thrashed, his eyes glowing, but Rowan's grip was iron. "You tell Victor," he said, leaning close to the rogue's ear. "If he comes for her again, I'll rip his throat out myself." The rogue laughed, a harsh sound. "You can't protect her forever, Alpha. The pup's too valuable." Rowan's fist connected with the man's jaw, silencing him. He dragged the rogue outside, disappearing into the parking lot. Emily followed, her legs shaking, just in time to see Rowan shove the man into a waiting car driven by another pack member. The car sped off, leaving her alone with Rowan. "You okay?" he asked, his voice rough as he turned to her, his eyes still wild. "No," she said, her voice trembling. "What the hell was that? He knew about the baby. He knew your name." Rowan ran a hand through his hair, his chest heaving. "That was one of Victor's enforcers. They're getting bolder. I told you, Emily, you're not safe." She glared, her fear turning to anger. "Then do something about it. You keep saying I'm in danger, but you're not stopping them." "I'm trying," he snapped, stepping closer. "But I can't be everywhere. You need to listen to me. Stay where I can protect you." "I didn't ask for this," she shouted, tears stinging her eyes. "I just wanted a baby, not whatever this is." Rowan's expression softened, and he reached for her, then stopped himself. "I know, I'm sorry, but we're in this together now. Let me take you back to the cabin." She nodded, too shaken to argue, but as they drove back, the baby's kicks felt like a warning. The rogues weren't just a threat, they were hunting her. Back at the cabin, Emily paced the living room, her hands shaking as she tried to process the encounter. Rowan stood by the fireplace, his silence heavy, watching her with those intense eyes that seemed to see too much. Mochi, sensing her distress, curled up on the couch, his green eyes wide. "We need to talk," Rowan said finally, his voice low but firm. "This can't go on. You're not safe in the city, and the cabin's only a temporary fix." Emily stopped pacing, her arms crossed. "What are you saying? I'm not moving to some werewolf commune just because you say so." Rowan's jaw tightened, but his tone stayed even. "It's not a commune. It's my pack's compound, warded and secure. And I'm not just suggesting you move there. I'm offering you something more." She raised an browser, her heart pounding. "More? Like what?" He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "Marry me. Not for love, not for real. A temporary bond, recognized by the pack. It'll give you full protection, my energy, my strength. It could stabilize your condition, help you carry the baby safely." Emily stared, her mouth falling open. "Marry you? Are you out of your mind?" "It's not about us," he said, his voice urgent. "It's about the baby. My alpha energy can ease the strain on your body. The pack will protect you as one of us. It's the only way to keep the rogues at bay." She laughed, sharp and disbelieving. "You think I'm going to marry a guy I barely know, who claims he's a werewolf, because some creep in a grocery store scared me? No way." Rowan's eyes flashed, frustration breaking through. "You felt that rogue's intent, Emily. They won't stop. And your lupus is getting worse. You heard the doctor, your body's struggling. I can help." She shook her head, backing toward the couch. "You're asking me to give up my life, Rowan? My home, my job, my friends. For what? A fairy tale about magic wolf energy?" "It's not a fairy tale," he said, his voice low and intense. "You felt Lila's touch. You feel the bond between us. You know I'm not lying." Emily's chest tightened, the pseudo-bond pulsing warmly, urging her toward him. She hated it, hated how it made her want to trust him. "And what happens after?" she asked, her voice softer now. "When the baby's born, do we just divorce? Pretend this never happened?" Rowan looked away, his jaw working. "If that's what you want, the bond's temporary, for protection. But I won't lie, it'll tie us closer. The baby's already doing that." She sank onto the couch, Mochi climbing into her lap. "I need to think," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "This is too much." Rowan nodded, stepping back. "Take your time, but don't take too long. Victor's not waiting." As he left the room, Emily stroked Mochi's fur, her mind racing. Marriage, even a fake one, felt like a surrender. But the rogue's words echoed in her head. "The pup's too valuable." She didn't know if she could trust Rowan, but she knew she couldn't face this alone. 2 days later, Emily stood in a clearing deep in the forest, surrounded by towering pines and a dozen strangers, Rowan's pack. The air was cool, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows. Her heart pounded as she adjusted the simple white dress Lila had given her, her belly straining against the fabric. The ceremony was nothing like she'd imagined a wedding to be. No flowers, no music, just a circle of serious-faced wolves and a stone altar carved with crescent moons. Rowan stood beside her, his dark suit tailored to his broad frame, his expression unreadable. "You sure about this?" he asked, his voice low enough for only her to hear. "No," Emily admitted, her hands clasped tightly. "But I'm out of options. The doctor called this morning. My lupus markers are worse. If you're right, if this energy thing can help, I have to try." He nodded, his eyes softening. "I'll keep you safe, Emily, both of you." Lila stepped forward, her silver hair gleaming in the sunlight, a leather-bound book in her hands. "This is a bonding rite," she said, addressing the pack. "Not a true mating, but a vow of protection. Emily Carter, human, carries the Alpha's heir. By this rite, she becomes one of us, under Rowan's care." A murmur rippled through the pack, some faces curious, others skeptical. A tall woman with sharp features, introduced as Mara, spoke up. "A human? She'll weaken us." Rowan's head snapped toward her, his voice a growl. "She carries my heir. Question her, you question me." Mara lowered her eyes, but the tension lingered. Emily's stomach churned. "They don't want me here," she whispered to Rowan. "They'll accept you," he said, his hand brushing hers, sending a jolt through her. "They have to." Lila raised her hands, silencing the crowd. "Join hands," she instructed. Emily hesitated, then placed her trembling hands in Rowan's, his grip warm and steady. The pseudo-bond flared, a warmth spreading from her chest to her fingertips. "Do you, Rowan Hale, vow to protect Emily Carter and her child, to share your strength and shield them from harm?" Lila asked. "I do," Rowan said, his voice resonant, his eyes locked on Emily's. "And you, Emily Carter, do you accept Rowan's protection, binding yourself to the Ashridge pack for the safety of your child?" Emily's throat tightened. "I do," she said, her voice barely audible. Lila placed a cord of braided leather around their joined hands, chanting softly in a language Emily didn't understand. A rush of energy surged through her, easing the ache in her joints, calming the baby's frantic kicks. She gasped, her eyes meeting Rowan's. He felt it too. She saw it in his widened eyes, the slight hitch in his breath. "It's done," Lila said, untying the cord. "You're bound for now." The pack dispersed, some offering nods of respect, others avoiding her gaze. Rowan led her to a bench, his hand lingering on her arm. "You okay?" he asked. "I don't know," she said, her voice shaking. "I felt something, like you were inside me." He nodded, his expression intense. "That's the bond, it's stronger now. You'll feel me and I'll feel you." She pulled away, overwhelmed. "This doesn't mean I trust you, or like you." His lips twitched, almost a smile. "Noted. But you're one of us now, Emily. No going back." As they walked back to the cabin, the bond pulsed between them, a thread she couldn't sever. She didn't know if it was real or just the baby, but for the first time she felt a flicker of safety, and something dangerously close to desire. The next morning, Emily packed her belongings, her heart heavy as she zipped Mochi into his carrier. The cabin had been a temporary refuge, but Rowan insisted the pack's compound was the only place truly safe from Victor's rogues. She'd agreed reluctantly, the memory of the grocery store attack and her worsening lupus pushing her to accept his protection. The Ashridge Pack's compound was a sprawling estate hidden deep in the Oregon woods, surrounded by dense forest and a high stone wall. The main house was a massive log structure, flanked by smaller cabins and communal buildings. Emily stared out the SUV's window, her stomach nodding as they passed pack members training in a clearing, their movements fluid and predatory. "This is it," Rowan said, pulling up to the main house. "You're home for now." "It's big," Emily said, her voice small. "How many people live here?" "About 50, he said, grabbing her bag. "Families, warriors, healers. Everyone has a role." She followed him inside, Mochi's carrier in her arms, feeling like an outsider. The main hall was warm, with wooden beams and a roaring fireplace, but the stares from pack members made her skin prickle. A young woman with braided hair approached, her smile tentative. "I'm Tessa," she said. "I'll show you to your room." "Thanks," Emily said, glancing at Rowan. "You're not coming?" "I've got pack business," he said, his tone clipped. "Tessa will get you settled. I'll check on you later." Emily nodded, her chest tightening as he walked away. The bond tugged, urging her to follow, but she ignored it, following Tessa up a wide staircase. Her room was cozy, with a quilted bed and a window overlooking the forest. Tessa set Mochi's carrier down, her smile warm but cautious. "You're human," Tessa said, her tone curious. "That's new for us. How are you handling all this?" Emily set Mochi free, watching him explore. "Not well," she admitted. "I didn't sign up for werewolves and rogue attacks. I just wanted a baby." Tessa nodded, sitting on the bed. "I get it. This place can be overwhelming. But Rowan's a good alpha, he'll keep you safe." "He keeps saying that," Emily said, her voice sharp. "But I don't know him, or any of you." "You will," Tessa said. "Give it time. The pack's like a family, messy but loyal. And that baby of yours? It's special. We'll protect it." Emily's hand rested on her belly, the baby kicking softly. Why does everyone care so much about my baby?" Tessa hesitated, then leaned closer. "It's not just a baby. It's an alpha heir, maybe the strongest ever. Hybrids are rare, and one with Rowan's blood? It could unite packs, or tear them apart." Emily's throat tightened. "Tear them apart how?" "Rogues like Victor," Tessa said, her voice low. "They'd use your baby to challenge Rowan, take over. That's why he's so protective." Emily looked out the window, the forest dark and endless. I didn't ask for this, she said softly. Nobody asks for their fate, Tessa said, standing. But you're here now, and we've got your back. As Tessa left, Emily sat on the bed, Mochi curling up beside her. The bond pulsed, a reminder of Rowan's promise. She didn't know if she could trust the pack, but for the first time, she didn't feel entirely alone. Emily woke to the sound of birdsong, the compound quieter than she'd expected. Her joints ached less today, the bonding rites energy lingering, but the baby's kicks were stronger, almost painful. She dressed and headed downstairs, drawn by the smell of bacon and coffee. In the communal kitchen, Lila was cooking, her silver hair tied back, her movements graceful despite her age. Morning, Lila said, sliding a plate of eggs and bacon toward Emily. You look better, the bond's helping, isn't it? Emily sat, picking at the food. Maybe, I still feel like I'm in over my head. Lila nodded, sitting across from her. You are, but you're strong, Emily. Stronger than you know. Emily snorted. I don't feel strong. I feel like a science experiment gone wrong. Lila's eyes softened. You're carrying a hybrid alpha. That's no small thing. Your body's fighting to keep up, but the bond with Rowan is helping. You felt it during the rite, didn't you? Emily's cheeks flushed, the memory of Rowan's hands and hers vivid. Yeah, it was intense, but I don't understand it. He says it's not real, just the baby. Lila tilted her head, studying her. The pseudo-bonds caused by the baby, yes. But it's rooted in something deeper. Rowan's an alpha, and you're carrying his heir. That creates a connection, one that might grow if you let it. Let it? Emily said, her voice sharp. I didn't choose this. I don't even know if I like him. Lila smiled, a knowing glint in her eyes. You don't have to like him to feel him. But let me explain the pack, so you understand what you're part of. We're a family bound by loyalty and the moon. Rowan's our leader, but he's also our protector. His energy strengthens us, and now it's strengthening you. Emily frowned, pushing her plate away. He keeps saying he can help my lupus. How? What's this energy? It's hard to explain to a human, Lila said, her voice patient. It's life force, tied to the pack's bond. Alphas can channel it, share it with those they protect. During the rite, you felt a piece of it. If you let Rowan closer, he can do more. Ease your symptoms, help your body handle the pregnancy. Emily's hand rested on her belly, the baby kicking in response. And if I don't? If I go back to the doctor? You could, Lila said. But human medicine doesn't understand hybrids. Your lupus is reacting to the baby's power. Rowan's energy can balance it, but it means trusting him. Emily looked away, the bond pulsing warmly. I don't know how to trust him. He's intense. And this place, these people, it's not my world. It is now, Lila said gently. Your pack, Emily, whether you feel it or not. And that baby, it's our future. Let me teach you a few things. Breathing exercises, ways to connect with the baby's energy. It'll help. Emily hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but no weird rituals. Emily sat on the porch of the Ashridge Pack's main house, a mug of chamomile tea warming her hands as the late October breeze rustled the pines. Her 18th week of pregnancy had brought a strange calm. The bonding rite with Rowan easing her lupus symptoms enough to feel almost normal, though normal was a distant memory. The compound buzzed with activity, pack members training or tending to daily tasks, but their wary glances reminded her she was still an outsider. The pseudo-bond with Rowan pulsed softly, a constant reminder of their connection, and she hated how it made her seek him out, even when she didn't want to. Rowan emerged from the forest, his dark hair damp with sweat, his Henley clinging to his broad chest after a patrol. He carried an air of quiet intensity, his golden hazel eyes scanning the compound before settling on her. You're up early, he said, climbing the porch steps. Feeling okay? Better than yesterday, Emily admitted, setting her mug down. Lila's herbs are helping, but I'm still not used to this. She gestured vaguely at the compound, the wolves, the weight of her new reality. He leaned against the railing, his gaze softening. It's a lot. I know, you're doing better than most would. She snorted, tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear. Don't patronize me, Rowan. I'm here because I have to be, not because I want to be. His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Instead, he sat beside her, the porch creaking under his weight. I owe you more than cryptic warnings, he said, his voice low. You need to know why I'm like this? Why I'm so invested. Emily's heart skipped, the bond pulsing warmer. Invested? You mean obsessive? You've been glued to my side since you showed up. He gave a small, rueful smile. Fair, but it's not just the baby. It's personal. He hesitated, his eyes distant, fixed on the forest. 3 years ago, I lost someone. Clara. My fated mate. Emily's breath caught, a pang of something, empathy, maybe jealousy, twisting in her chest. Fated mate? Like the bond you keep talking about? He nodded, his voice rough. The real thing, not the pseudo-bond you and I have. Clara was everything. Strong, fierce, the heart of the pack. We were supposed to lead together, have a family. But rogues, Victor's pack, ambushed us. She died protecting me. Emily's throat tightened, her hand instinctively resting on her belly. I'm sorry, she said softly. That's awful. Rowan's fists clenched, his knuckles white. I failed her. I was the alpha, and I couldn't save her. After that, I swore I'd never let anyone close again. But I donated my sperm to preserve the bloodline, to give the pack a future without risking another mate. Then you happened. She stared, the weight of his words settling over her. So I'm, what? A mistake you're stuck with? No, he said sharply, his eyes meeting hers. You're not a mistake. You're carrying my heir, Emily. And you're... He trailed off, his gaze intense, almost vulnerable. You're more than I expected. Her cheeks flushed, the bond flaring, urging her closer. She pushed it down, focusing on his words. Why tell me this now? Because you need to understand why I won't let anything happen to you, he said, his voice low. I lost Clara to Victor's pack. I won't lose you or our child. Emily's heart raced, torn between compassion and frustration. I'm not her, Rowan, and I'm not your mate. I'm just trying to survive this. I know, he said, standing abruptly. But you're pack now, and I protect what's mine. As he walked away, Emily's chest ached, the bond humming with his pain. She didn't want to care about him, but his story had cracked something open, a glimpse of the man behind the alpha. Deep in a derelict warehouse on the outskirts of the city, Victor prowled among his rogue pack, his silver eyes glinting in the dim light. The air was thick with the scent of rust and desperation. His enforcers gathered around a makeshift table littered with maps and stolen pack records. Victor, lean and sharp-featured, radiated a cold menace, his scarred hands gripping a photo of Emily Carter, her pregnant silhouette unmistakable. The hybrid's growing fast, Victor said, his voice a low rasp. Rowan's bonded her to the pack, but she's still human. Weak, we take her now before the pup's born. A burly rogue named Gavril, the one who'd confronted Emily at the grocery store, leaned forward, his steel-gray eyes narrowing. Rowan's got her locked down at the compound. Wards, patrols, he's not slacking. Victor's lip curled, revealing pointed canines. Then we hit them where it hurts. The pack's divided. Half of them don't trust a human carrying their heir. We exploit that. Turn one of them. A younger rogue, Lena, shifted uneasily, her dark hair falling over her face. Betray the Ashridge pack? That's a death sentence if we fail. Victor's gaze snapped to her, cold and unyielding. Fail, and you're dead anyway. The hybrid's our ticket to power. An alpha heir, half human. It's a weapon we can wield. We control the pup, we control the future. Gavril nodded, his scarred cheek twitching. Mara's already grumbling. She thinks the human weakens Rowan. I say we start there. Victor smirked, tossing Emily's photo onto the table. Do it. Find her weaknesses, her routines. We'll strike when they least expect it. Lena hesitated, her voice low. What about the human? If we take her, will we keep her alive? Victor's eyes gleamed, predatory. For now, she's useless without the pup. But once it's born, she's expendable. Back at the compound, Emily was unaware of the plotting, but the bond with Rowan tugged at her, a quiet warning. She sat in her room, sketching a logo for a client, trying to hold on to a piece of her old life. Mochi purred beside her, oblivious to the storm brewing beyond the wards. The full moon hung low over the compound, its silver light bathing the forest in an ethereal glow. Emily couldn't sleep, the baby's kicks stronger than ever, synchronized with the moon's pull. She slipped out of her room, drawn to the night air, her bare feet soft on the grass, as she wandered to a clearing near the main house. The bond pulsed, urging her forward, and she knew Rowan was near before she saw him. He stood at the edge of the clearing, shirtless, his skin glistening under the moonlight, his eyes glowing faintly gold. Emily's breath caught, the bond flaring with an intensity that made her dizzy. She should have turned back, but her feet carried her closer. Couldn't sleep? Rowan asked, his voice low, almost a growl, as he turned to face her. No, she said, wrapping her arms around herself, suddenly aware of her thin nightgown. The baby's going crazy. It's the moon, isn't it? He nodded, stepping closer, his gaze intense. It's calling to the pup. To me, to you. She shivered, the bond pulling her toward him, her skin tingling. I don't understand it, she admitted, her voice soft. I feel you, Rowan, all the time. It's like you're inside me. He closed the distance, stopping just short of touching her, his chest rising and falling. It's the bond, he said, his voice rough. The pup's tying us together, but tonight, under the moon, it's stronger. Emily's heart raced, her eyes locked on his. Is it real? Or just whatever this bond is? Rowan's hand hovered near her cheek, his fingers trembling. I don't know, he admitted. I want to say it's just the bond, but when I look at you... He trailed off, his eyes darkening with something raw, unguarded. She stepped closer, drawn by the heat of his body, the pull of the moon. Rowan, she whispered, her voice trembling. I'm scared. Of this, of you, of everything. He cupped her face, his touch gentle but electric, sending a jolt through her. I'm scared too, he said, his voice barely audible. But I'm here, Emily. I'm not going anywhere. Their faces were inches apart, the bond a living thing between them, urging her to close the gap. Her lips parted, her breath mingling with his, and for a moment, she thought they'd kiss. But a sharp kick from the baby broke the spell, and she stepped back, her cheeks burning. I can't, she said, turning away. This isn't real, it's just... the baby. Rowan's hand dropped, his expression unreadable. Maybe, he said. But it doesn't feel like just the baby. She fled back to the house, her heart pounding, the bond humming with his presence. Under the moon, she'd felt something undeniable, but she wasn't ready to name it. The next morning, Emily woke to a wave of dizziness so severe she could barely stand. Her joints ached, her vision blurring as she gripped the bed frame. The baby's kicks were relentless, each one a stab of pain. Panic surged through her, and she fumbled for her phone, calling Lila. Lila, something's wrong, she gasped, her voice shaking. I can't breathe right. Stay put, Lila said, her voice calm but urgent. I'm coming. Where's Rowan? Patrol, Emily managed, sinking to the floor. Hurry. Lila arrived minutes later, Rowan bursting through the door behind her, his face pale with worry. Emily, he said, kneeling beside her, his hands hovering over her. What's happening? It's bad, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. The baby, it's too much. Lila checked her pulse, her expression grim. Her lupus is flaring worse than before. The hybrid's energy is overwhelming her system. Rowan's eyes flashed, his voice a growl. Fix it, Lila, now. I can't, Lila said, her voice steady but strained. Not alone. You need to share your energy, Rowan. The bond's strong enough now, it might stabilize her. Emily shook her head, her vision swimming. No, hospital. A hospital won't help, Rowan said, his voice desperate. They don't understand hybrids. Let me try, Emily. Please. She nodded weakly, too exhausted to argue. Rowan took her hands, his grip warm and steady, and closed his eyes. A rush of energy flowed through her, like sunlight in her veins, easing the pain in her joints, slowing her racing heart. The baby's kick softened, as if soothed by his presence. Emily gasped, her vision clearing. What was that? She asked, her voice hoarse. Alpha energy, Lila said, her eyes bright with relief. Rowan's strength, channeled through the bond. It's not a cure, but it's buying you time. Rowan's hands lingered on hers, his eyes searching her face. You okay? For now, she said, pulling her hands away, overwhelmed. But I can't keep doing this. I need answers, not just magic. Lila nodded, packing her satchel. I'll run tests, see if we can balance your system better. But Rowan's right. His energy is your best shot. As Leela left, Rowan stayed, his presence a quiet anchor. I'm sorry, he said softly. I didn't want this for you. Emily met his gaze, her chest tight. Then help me understand. If I'm going to survive this, I need to know everything. He nodded, his expression resolute. You will, I promise. The compound's meeting hall was packed, the air thick with tension as Rowan addressed the pack. Emily stood at the back, her arms crossed, feeling like an intruder despite the bonding rite. Her health scare had left her shaken, but Rowan's energy had stabilized her enough to attend, his insistence that she understand the pack's dynamics overriding her reluctance. We've had 2 rogue sightings in a week, Rowan said, his voice commanding attention. Victor's pack is closing in. They want the hybrid heir, and they'll exploit any weakness to get it. Mara, the sharp-featured woman who'd questioned Emily before, stood, her eyes hard. The weakness is her, she said, pointing at Emily. A human carrying our alpha's heir? She's a liability. The rogues wouldn't be this bold if we had a true mate. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and Emily's face burned, the bond pulsing with her anger. I didn't ask for this, she said, stepping forward, her voice shaking but clear. But I'm here, and I'm carrying this baby. If you have a problem, say it to my face. Mara's eyes narrowed, but Rowan's growl silenced the room. Enough, he said, his voice lethal. Emily is pack, bound by right. She carries my heir, and you will protect her as you would me. Anyone who disagrees can challenge me now. The room went still, Mara's gaze dropping. Tessa, standing nearby, squeezed Emily's arm, her voice low. You did good, they'll come around. Rowan continued, his tone softer but firm. Emily's not a liability, she's our strength. The hybrid heir could unite us, make us stronger, but only if we stand together. As the meeting ended, pack members approached Emily, some offering cautious nods, others avoiding her gaze. Mara lingered, her expression unreadable. You're brave, she said finally, but bravery won't stop Victor. Then help me, Emily said, her voice steady. If you care about this pack, help me protect my baby. Mara studied her, then nodded curtly and walked away. Rowan joined Emily, his hand brushing her shoulder, sending a spark through her. You handled that well, he said, his voice warm. I'm not here to make friends, she said, but her tone softened. I just want to keep my baby safe. And you will, he said, his eyes intense. We will. As they left the hall, the bond hummed between them, a quiet promise in the face of growing danger. Emily didn't know if she could trust the pack, but with Rowan beside her, she felt a flicker of hope. The morning sun filtered through the dense canopy of the Ashridge Pack's compound, casting dappled light across the training field where Emily stood, her breath visible in the crisp air. At 20 weeks pregnant, her belly was a pronounced curve, making her feel clumsy and vulnerable. The memory of the rogue's attack in the grocery store lingered, a sharp reminder of her helplessness, and Rowan's insistence on self-defense training had finally worn her down. She adjusted her loose sweatshirt, her joints still tender from her recent lupus flare, and faced Rowan, who stood across from her, his stance relaxed but alert. You sure about this? Emily asked, crossing her arms. I'm not exactly in fighting shape. Rowan's golden hazel eyes softened, but his voice was firm. You don't need to be a warrior, Emily. You just need to know enough to protect yourself and the baby if I'm not there. She raised an eyebrow, her tone skeptical. And you think I can learn to fend off a werewolf? In my condition? Not fend off, he said, stepping closer, his presence grounding. Delay, escape, you're stronger than you think, and the bond gives you an edge. You feel me, don't you? That's not just the baby, it's instinct. Emily's cheeks warmed, the pseudo-bond pulsing in her chest, a constant hum that made her hyper-aware of him. Fine, she said, uncrossing her arms. But if I pull a muscle, you're explaining it to Lila? He smirked, a rare flash of humor that softened his rugged features. Deal, let's start with basics, stance and balance. Feet apart, knees bent, like this. He demonstrated, his movements fluid, powerful. Emily mimicked him, feeling awkward but determined. Like this? Close, he said, circling her, his eyes scanning her form. Shift your weight forward, you're pregnant, not fragile. Use your center. She adjusted, the baby kicking as if in approval. This feels ridiculous, she muttered, but she held the stance. Rowan stepped behind her, his hands hovering near her shoulders, not touching but close enough to send a shiver through her. It's not ridiculous, he said, his voice low. It's survival. If a rogue comes at you, you don't fight strength with strength. You use their momentum against them. He guided her through a simple maneuver, sidestepping and redirecting an attacker's lunge. His hands brushed her arms, correcting her form, and the bond flared, warm and electric. Emily's breath hitched, her focus wavering. You're too close, she said, stepping away, her cheeks burning. Rowan's eyes darkened, but he backed off, raising his hands. Sorry, just trying to help. She nodded, her heart racing. Let's just keep going. They trained for an hour, Rowan teaching her to block, dodge, and strike vulnerable points. Knees, throat, eyes. Emily was clumsy at first, her pregnancy making her movements slow, but she found a rhythm, her body responding to his calm instructions. By the end, she was sweating, her confidence bolstered by the knowledge that she wasn't entirely helpless. Not bad, Rowan said, tossing her a water bottle. You're a quick learner. Emily caught it, taking a long sip. Don't sound so surprised. I'm not just a damsel in distress. Never thought you were, he said, his voice soft, his gaze lingering. You're tougher than most of my pack. The compliment caught her off guard, the bond humming with warmth. She looked away, focusing on the water bottle. Thanks, she said quietly. But I still don't know if I can do this. Fight off rogues, live in your world. Rowan stepped closer, his voice low. You're already doing it, Emily, and I'm right here with you. She met his gaze, the bond pulling her toward him, but she pushed it down. Let's call it a day, she said, turning toward the main house. As she walked away, the baby kicked, and she felt Rowan's eyes on her, a silent promise that made her heart ache. The compound was quiet that evening. The pack gathered for dinner in the communal hall. Emily sat with Tessa, picking at her plate of roasted chicken, her appetite dulled by the lingering soreness from training. The bond with Rowan pulsed softly, drawing her attention to him at the head of the table, deep in conversation with Marcus, his beta. His eyes flicked to her occasionally, a silent check-in that both comforted and unnerved her. Tessa nudged her, her voice low. "You're getting the hang of this place, huh? Not so bad, right?" Emily forced a smile, her hand on her belly. "It's different. I'm still waiting for the part where I wake up, and this is all a dream." Tessa laughed, but her expression sobered. "You'll be okay, Emily. Rowan's got your back and so do I." Before Emily could respond, a commotion at the hall's entrance drew her attention. A young pack member, Ethan, burst in, his face pale. "Rowan," he gasped. "There's something at the border. You need to see this." Rowan stood, his chair scraping the floor, his expression hardening. "Stay here," he told Emily, his voice sharp as he followed Ethan out, Marcus and several others trailing behind. Emily's stomach twisted, the bond flaring with Rowan's tension. "What's going on?" she asked Tessa, her voice low. "Could be rogues," Tessa said, her eyes narrowing. "The wards alert us to breaches. Stay put, it's safer here." But Emily couldn't sit still, the baby's kicks urging her to move. She slipped out of the hall, ignoring Tessa's protest, and followed the path to the compound's border, where Rowan and the others stood around a gruesome sight. A dead wolf, its fur matted with blood, a note pinned to its flank. Rowan's face was a mask of fury as he read the note aloud. "To the Alpha of Ashridge, surrender the human and her pup, or your pack bleeds next. Victor." Emily's blood ran cold, her hand clutching her belly. "He's talking about me," she whispered, her voice shaking. Rowan turned, his eyes blazing as he saw her. "I told you to stay inside," he snapped, but his tone softened as he stepped closer. "You don't need to see this." "I need to know," she said, her voice firm despite her fear. "He's threatening my baby. What does he want?" Rowan crumpled the note, his fists trembling. "He wants power. Your child's a hybrid alpha, a threat to his plans. He thinks he can control it, use it to overthrow me." Emily's knees weakened, but she stood her ground. "And if we don't give in? What then?" "Then we fight," Marcus said, stepping forward, his dark eyes cold. "Victor's pack is strong, but we're stronger. We protect our own." Emily looked at Rowan, the bond pulsing with his resolve. "You can't fight a war over me," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm not worth that." Rowan's hand cupped her face, his touch gentle but firm, sending a jolt through her. "You're worth everything," he said, his voice low. "You and our child, I won't let him touch you." She pulled away, overwhelmed, the bond urging her closer even as her mind screamed to run. "I need to think," she said, turning back to the house. As she walked away, the baby kicked, a fierce reminder of the stakes. Victor's threat was real, and Rowan was her only shield. The tension from Victor's threat hung over the compound like a storm cloud. Emily stayed close to the main house, her nerves frayed, the baby's kicks a constant reminder of the danger closing in. She avoided Rowan, the bond's intensity overwhelming after their moment at the border. But that night, unable to sleep, she wandered to the kitchen for tea, only to find Rowan there, his shirt unbuttoned, a glass of whiskey in his hand. "You shouldn't be up," he said, his voice rough as he set the glass down. "It's late." "So should you," she shot back, crossing her arms, her nightgown clinging to her rounded belly. "What's with the whiskey? Thought alphas didn't need liquid courage." He smirked, but his eyes were tired, haunted. "Even alphas have rough days. You okay after everything?" "No," she admitted, leaning against the counter, the bond pulsing warmly. "That note scared the hell out of me. I don't know how to do this, Rowan. I'm not built for your world." He stepped closer, his presence filling the small space, his scent, pine and musk, stirring the bond. "You're stronger than you think," he said, his voice low. "You stood up to Mara, trained with me, faced a rogue's threat. You're more pack than half my wolves. She laughed, sharp and bitter. I'm just trying to survive, for my baby. Our baby, he corrected, his eyes darkening as he closed the distance, stopping inches away. And you're not alone in this. I'm here, Emily, always. Her breath hitched, the bond flaring, urging her closer. You keep saying that, she whispered, her voice trembling. But what does it mean? This bond, these feelings, are they real or just some werewolf trick? Rowan's hand brushed her arm, his touch electric, sending heat through her. I don't know, he admitted, his voice raw. I thought it was just the bond, the baby. But when I'm with you, it feels more. She looked up, his eyes glowing faintly under the kitchen's dim light, and the bond pulled her under, drowning her doubts. Before she could stop herself, she leaned in, her lips crashing into his. The kiss was fierce, desperate, his hands sliding to her waist, pulling her close despite her belly. The bond roared, a wildfire of need and connection, and she melted into him, her fingers tangling in his hair. But panic surged, and she pulled back, breathless, her cheeks burning. I can't, she gasped, stepping away. This isn't me, it's the bond, the baby. Maybe, Rowan said, his voice hoarse, his eyes locked on hers. But it felt real to me. She fled to her room, her heart pounding, the bond humming with his taste, his touch. She locked the door, sinking onto the bed, Mochi curling up beside her. What am I doing? She whispered, her hand on her belly. The baby kicked, as if answering, and she knew she couldn't run from Rowan, or the feelings she was starting to fear were her own. The next day, Emily sat in the compound's small medical room, Lila adjusting an ultrasound machine borrowed from a nearby clinic. The kiss with Rowan lingered in her mind, a forbidden thrill she couldn't shake, but her focus was on the baby. Her lupus symptoms had stabilized since Rowan's energy transfer, but the baby's rapid growth and relentless kicks worried her. Lila had insisted on a checkup, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to Emily's frayed nerves. Lie back, Lila said, spreading gel on Emily's belly. Let's see what this little one's up to. Emily complied, her hands clasped tightly. It's been kicking like crazy, she said, her voice tense. More than usual. Is that normal? Lila's brow furrowed as she moved the wand, the screen flickering to life. Normal's relative with a hybrid, she said, her tone light but cautious. Let's take a look. The image showed a tiny form, limbs moving with startling clarity. The heartbeat echoed strong and fast, but Lila's expression tightened. The baby's measuring closer to 30 weeks, she said, her voice low. And there's something else. What? Emily asked, sitting up slightly, her heart racing. Lila pointed to the screen, where faint pulses of light seemed to emanate from the baby. That's not typical, she said. It's alpha energy, strong even in utero. It's reacting to the pack, to Rowan, to the moon. Emily's throat tightened, the bond pulsing with Rowan's distant presence. Is it dangerous? For me? Not necessarily, Lila said, setting the wand down. But it's powerful. Your body's handling it better since the bonding rite, but we need to keep you stable. Rowan's energy is key. Emily looked away, the kiss flashing in her mind. I don't know if I can keep doing that, she said softly. Relying on him, it's confusing. Lila's eyes softened, a knowing glint in them. The bond's intense, I know. It's blurring the lines between duty and desire. But you felt the baby's power just now. It's part of you, part of him. You can't fight that. I'm not fighting it, Emily said, her voice sharp. I'm just scared of losing myself, of what this baby means. Lila squeezed her hand, her touch warm. You won't lose yourself. You're stronger than you know, Emily. And Rowan? He's not just protecting the baby. He's protecting you. Emily nodded, her chest tight. Can you tell him I'm okay? I need space. Of course, Lila said, standing. But don't shut him out too long. The baby needs you both. As Lila left, Emily stared at the ultrasound image, the baby's glowing energy etched in her mind. It wasn't just a child. It was a force, and she was its vessel. The weight of that truth settled over her, as heavy as the bond tying her to Rowan. Emily sat on her bed, Mochi purring beside her, her sketchbook open but untouched. The ultrasound had shaken her, the baby's power a stark reminder of the world she'd been thrust into. Victor's threat loomed, the dead wolf at the border a warning she couldn't ignore. Part of her wanted to run, back to her apartment, her old life, where werewolves and rogue packs were just stories. But the baby's kicks, the bond with Rowan, and the memory of his kiss kept her rooted. Tessa knocked, poking her head in. "Hey, you okay?" Lila said the ultrasound was intense. Emily sighed, closing her sketchbook. "Yeah, the baby's not normal. It's got this energy, like Rowan's. I don't know what to do with that." Tessa sat beside her, her braids swinging. "You don't have to do anything alone. The pack's here, Emily. Rowan's here." "That's the problem," Emily said, her voice breaking. "I feel him all the time. The bond, the baby. It's like I'm losing myself. I keep thinking about running, just taking the baby and going." Tessa's eyes widened. "Run? Emily, you can't. Victor's out there. You saw what he did." "I know," Emily said, tears stinging her eyes. "But this isn't my world. I'm not a wolf, Tessa. I'm just a graphic designer with a bad immune system." Tessa took her hand, her grip firm. "You're more than that. You're carrying the future of this pack. And Rowan, he'd tear the world apart to find you if you ran." Emily's chest ached, the bond pulsing with Rowan's distant presence. "He told me about Clara," she said softly. "His mate. He's doing this because he feels guilty, not because he cares about me." Tessa shook her head, her voice fierce. "That's not true. I've known Rowan my whole life. He's different with you. The way he looks at you, it's not just duty." Emily looked away, her heart racing. "I kissed him last night," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "And I don't know if it was me or the bond." Tessa grinned, squeezing her hand. "That's a start. Look, you don't have to figure it out today. But running, that's not the answer. Stay, Emily, let us help you." Before Emily could respond, Rowan appeared in the doorway, his expression tense. "We need to talk," he said, his eyes locked on her. "Alone." Tessa squeezed Emily's hand and left, closing the door. Rowan sat on the edge of the bed, his presence overwhelming. "Lila told me about the ultrasound," he said. "The baby's strong, too strong. We need to be ready." "Ready for what?" Emily asked, her voice sharp. "More rogues? More threats?" "All of it," he said, his voice low. "But you're thinking about running, I can feel it." Her cheeks flushed, the bond betraying her. "Can you blame me? This isn't my life, Rowan. I'm scared and I don't know if I can trust you." He leaned closer, his eyes intense. "You can. I know you don't believe it yet, but I'm all in, Emily. For you, for our child, stay. Let me prove it." She met his gaze, the bond humming, her resolve wavering. "Okay," she said finally, her voice trembling. "I'll stay, for now." Rowan's relief was palpable, his hand brushing hers, sending a spark through her. "Thank you," he said, his voice soft. "I won't let you down." As he left, Emily's heart pounded, the baby kicking softly. She'd chosen to stay, but the path ahead felt more dangerous than ever. The Ashridge Pack compound was a fortress of tension, the air heavy with the scent of pine and impending danger. Emily, now in her 22nd week of pregnancy, felt the weight of her decision to stay, the pseudo-bond with Rowan a constant pulse in her chest. The memory of their kiss lingered, a dangerous spark she tried to ignore. But Victor's threat, a dead wolf at the border, loomed larger with each passing day. The pack was on high alert, patrols doubled, and Emily's self-defense training with Rowan had become a daily ritual, though her growing belly made every movement a challenge. That evening, as dusk settled over the forest, Emily sat in the communal hall with Tessa, sketching a new logo designed to distract herself from the unease gnawing at her. The baby kicked relentlessly, its strength unnerving, and the bond tugged at her, urging her to find Rowan. She resisted, focusing on her pencil strokes, until a sharp howl pierced the air, followed by shouts and the thud of running feet. Tessa's head snapped up, her eyes wide. "That's a breach," she said, grabbing Emily's arm. "Stay here, lock the door." "No way," Emily said, standing despite the ache in her joints. "I'm not hiding while you all fight." Tessa's expression hardened. "You're pregnant, Emily. You're the target. Stay put." But Emily's stubbornness won out, the bond flaring with Rowan's urgency. She followed Tessa to the hall's entrance, where pack members were arming themselves with knives and makeshift weapons. Outside, chaos erupted, growls and snarls echoed through the trees, and Emily's heart pounded as she caught sight of Rowan, his form a blur of lethal grace as he fought off 3 rogues, their eyes glowing silver in the twilight. "Emily, get back!" Rowan roared, his voice carrying over the din as he pinned a rogue to the ground, his fist connecting with a sickening crunch. She froze, the bond screaming at her to run, but her feet wouldn't move. A rogue broke free from the melee, his gaze locking onto her, his scarred face twisted with intent. "The human!" he growled, lunging toward her. Emily's training kicked in, her body moving before her mind caught up. She sidestepped, using the rogue's momentum to shove him into a tree, just as Rowan had taught her. The rogue stumbled, stunned, and Tessa tackled him, her movements swift and brutal. "Nice move," Tessa panted, restraining the rogue as Marcus arrived to secure him. "But you shouldn't be out here." Before Emily could respond, another rogue charged, his claws extended, claws, not hands. She screamed, stumbling back, but Rowan was there, his body a shield as he took the rogue down with a snarl that was more wolf than man. Blood spattered the ground, and Emily's stomach churned, the baby kicking frantically. "Get her inside," Rowan shouted to Tessa, his eyes glowing gold, his chest heaving. "Now!" Tessa dragged Emily back to the hall, locking the door behind them. Emily's legs shook, her breath ragged. "They're after me," she gasped, her hand on her belly. "They won't stop, will they?" Tessa's face was grim, but she squeezed Emily's shoulder. "Not while Victor's alive. But Rowan's got this. He won't let them touch you." Emily sank into a chair, the bond pulsing with Rowan's fury and fear. "I can't keep hiding," she said, her voice trembling. "I need to do something." "You will," Tessa said, her voice fierce. "But right now you stay safe. For the baby." Outside, the fighting died down, the rogues retreating or captured, but the cost was clear. 2 pack members lay injured, their blood staining the grass. Emily's heart ached, guilt settling in. This was her fault, her baby's fault. She didn't know how to fix it, but she knew she couldn't stay on the sidelines. The aftermath of the ambush left the compound somber, the injured pack members carried to the medical room, where Lila worked tirelessly. Emily hovered outside, her hands clasped tightly, the bond pulling her toward Rowan, who was still outside, barking orders to secure the perimeter. Her lupus symptoms had flared again, her joints aching, but the adrenaline from the attack kept her upright. She needed to see him, to know he was okay. When Rowan finally entered the main house, his shirt was torn, blood streaking his arm. Not his, she realized with relief. His eyes found hers, softening despite the tension in his jaw. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice rough. "I told you to stay inside." "I had to know you were okay," she said, her voice trembling. "You were out there, fighting for me." He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming, the bond flaring with his nearness. I'll always fight for you, he said, his voice low. You and our child. Emily's throat tightened, tears stinging her eyes. I saw you out there, she said. You were terrifying. Like you weren't human. Rowan's expression flickered, a mix of pride and pain. I'm not human, Emily. Not entirely. But I'm yours, for as long as you need me. She reached for his hand, her fingers brushing his, the bond sparking at the contact. You're hurt, she said, noticing the blood on his arm. It's nothing, he said. But he didn't pull away, letting her inspect the shallow cut. Lila's got worse to deal with. Let me help, Emily said, her voice firm. I can't fight, but I can do something. He hesitated, then nodded. All right, come with me. They joined Lila in the medical room, where the healer was bandaging a young wolf named Caleb, his shoulder torn from a rogue's claws. Lila glanced up, her silver hair disheveled. Emily, good. Grab those bandages. Rowan, sit. I need to check that cut. I'm fine, Rowan protested, but he sat, his eyes never leaving Emily as she handed Lila the supplies. You're not fine, Emily said, her voice sharp. You're bleeding and you're not invincible. He smirked, a tired edge to it. You sound like you care. She flushed, focusing on the bandages. Don't flatter yourself. I just don't want you passing out on me. Lila chuckled, her hands steady as she cleaned Rowan's wound. You two bicker like an old married couple. The bond's strong today. Emily's cheeks burned, but she didn't argue, helping Lila wrap Caleb's shoulder. As they worked, Rowan's presence steadied her, his energy flowing through the bond, easing her joint pain. She glanced at him, catching his gaze, and for a moment the room faded, the bond a warm thread tying them together. Thank you, she said softly as they finished. For protecting me, for everything. Rowan's eyes softened, his hand brushing hers. Always, he said, his voice a promise. As they left the medical room, Emily felt a shift, a closeness that wasn't just the bond. She was starting to see Rowan not as a stranger, but as a partner, one she might actually need. The next morning, the compound was on edge, the pack repairing damage from the ambush while Rowan met with his inner circle. Emily stayed in her room, sketching to calm her nerves, but the bond tugged at her, urging her to join them. She resisted, focusing on her pencil strokes, until Tessa burst in, her face pale. Emily, you need to come, she said, her voice urgent. Victor sent another message. It's bad. Emily's heart sank, her hand tightening on her pencil. What kind of message? Tessa shook her head. Just come, Rowan wants you there. In the meeting hall, the pack's leaders were gathered around a table, a blood-stained envelope at its center. Rowan stood, his expression grim as Emily entered. You shouldn't be here, he said, but his tone lacked conviction. I'm done hiding, Emily said, crossing her arms, her belly prominent under her sweater. What's going on? Rowan sighed, opening the envelope and reading aloud. To Rowan Hale, the human and her pup belong to us. Surrender them by the next full moon, or we burn your pack to the ground. Victor. Emily's knees weakened, the baby kicking sharply. He's not getting my baby, she said, her voice shaking but fierce. He won't, Rowan said, his eyes blazing. This is a bluff. Victor's desperate. He knows he can't take us head on. Marcus, leaning against the wall, shook his head. It's not a bluff. He's got numbers, Rowan. And he's got Mara. Emily's head snapped up. Mara, the one who hates me. Rowan's jaw clenched. She's been talking to the rogues. I didn't want to believe it, but we found evidence, a message she sent to Victor. Emily's stomach churned, the bond pulsing with Rowan's betrayal. She's one of yours, she said. How could she do this? Power, Marcus said, his voice cold. Some wolves think a human weakens us. Mara's betting on Victor. Rowan slammed his fist on the table, making Emily jump. "She's wrong," he growled. "And she'll pay for it. But right now we focus on Victor. We need a plan." "I can help," Emily said, her voice steady despite her fear. "I'm not a fighter, but I'm good with patterns, designs. I could, I don't know, make maps, decoys, something to throw them off." Rowan's eyes softened, a flicker of pride in them. "You don't have to do this, Emily. You've been through enough." "I want to," she said, meeting his gaze. "This is my fight too, for our baby." He nodded, his hand brushing hers, sending a spark through her. "All right, work with Tessa. We'll use anything you come up with." As the meeting ended, Emily felt the bond hum, a shared resolve binding them. Victor's ultimatum was a line in the sand, and she was ready to stand with Rowan no matter the cost. Emily sat with Tessa in the compound's library, a small room filled with dusty books and maps, her sketchpad open as she drafted decoy routes to mislead Victor's rogues. The work kept her mind off the ultimatum, but the bond with Rowan was a constant distraction, its warmth growing stronger each day. She'd avoided him since the ambush, the memory of their kiss a dangerous temptation. But Lila's words from the ultrasound lingered. The pseudo-bond might be evolving into something real. Tessa glanced at her sketches, impressed. "These are good," she said, pointing to a map with false patrol routes. "Victor's scouts won't know what hit them." "Thanks," Emily said, rubbing her belly, the baby kicking softly. "I just hope it's enough." Before Tessa could respond, Lila entered, her silver hair tied back, her expression serious. "Emily, we need to talk. About the bond." Emily's heart skipped, her pencil pausing. "What about it?" Lila sat across from her, her eyes searching. "The ultrasound showed the baby's alpha energy, stronger than we expected. It's amplifying the pseudo-bond, but I've been watching you and Rowan. The way you move together, the way you feel him, it's more than just the baby." Emily's cheeks flushed, the bond pulsing warmly. "You're saying it's real? Like his bond with Clara?" "Not exactly," Lila said, her voice gentle. "A true mate bond is faded, rare. But a bond like yours, born from the baby, can grow into something just as strong. You're feeling him, aren't you? Not just his presence, but his emotions." Emily nodded, her throat tight. "All the time, it's overwhelming." "I kissed him, Lila. And I don't know if it was me or the bond." Lila smiled, a knowing glint in her eyes. "That's the thing about bonds, they blur the lines. But what you're feeling, the pull, the need, it's not just magic. It's you responding to him." Emily looked away, her heart racing. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I don't want to lose myself to this, to him." "You won't," Layla said, squeezing her hand. "You're still Emily Carter, lupus and all. But you're also Pac, and Rowan's part of that. Let yourself feel it, it might save you both." Tessa, who'd been listening quietly, grinned. "She's right, you know. I've seen how he looks at you. It's not just duty." Emily's cheeks burned, but before she could respond, Rowan appeared in the doorway, his expression tense. "Emily, we need your maps. Victor's scouts were spotted near the river." She stood, her sketches in hand, the bond flaring as his eyes met hers. "They're ready," she said, her voice steady. "Let's make them regret coming for us." Rowan's lips twitched, a flicker of pride in his gaze. "That's my girl," he said, the words slipping out before he caught himself. Emily's heart skipped, but she pushed it down, focusing on the maps. The bond might be real, but the fight was now, and she was ready to face it. The compound buzzed with preparation, pack members fortifying the wards and sharpening weapons, as Rowan's inner circle gathered to finalize their defense. Emily's decoy maps had been distributed to the scouts, designed to lure Victor's rogues into a trap near the river, where the pack's strongest fighters would be waiting. Emily sat at the meeting table, her sketches spread out, her hand on her belly as the baby kicked, its energy sinking with the tension in the room. "You're sure these will work?" Marcus asked, studying the maps, his dark eyes skeptical. If Victor's scouts don't take the bait, we're exposed. They'll work, Emily said, her voice firm. I've mapped every weak point in the terrain, made it look like we're patrolling the wrong areas. They'll think they've got an opening. Rowan nodded, his hand brushing hers as he leaned over the table, sending a spark through her. She's right, he said. This gives us the advantage. We hit them hard before the full moon. Mara, who'd been silent since her betrayal was suspected, spoke up, her tone clipped. And if they get through? The human's the target. She's still a liability. Emily's jaw tightened, the bond pulsing with her anger. Call me a liability again, she said, her voice cold, and I'll show you what I learned from Rowan's training. Mara's eyes narrowed, but Rowan's growl silenced her. Enough, he said, his voice lethal. Emily's one of us, her maps are our best shot. You don't like it, you're free to leave. Mara's gaze dropped, but the tension lingered. Tessa leaned toward Emily, whispering, You're killing it. She's just jealous. Emily forced a smile, but her heart raced, the baby's kicks mirroring her unease. Rowan, she said, her voice low. What if Victor doesn't fall for it? What if he comes for me? Rowan's eyes softened, his hand covering hers, the bond flaring. He won't get near you, he said, his voice a vow. I'll tear him apart first. She nodded, the bond anchoring her, but fear lingered. I'm trying to be brave, she admitted, her voice barely audible. But I'm scared. I know, he said, his thumb brushing her knuckles. But you're not alone. We're in this together. As the meeting ended, the pack dispersed to prepare, but Rowan lingered, his gaze locked on Emily. Your maps are brilliant, he said, his voice soft. You're saving us. I'm just trying to keep my baby safe, she said, her hand on her belly, the bond humming with their shared resolve. You will, he said, stepping closer, his voice a whisper. And I'll be right beside you. As he walked away, Emily felt the bond strengthen, a thread of courage binding them. Victor's ultimatum was a ticking clock, but with Rowan and the pack, she was ready to fight. The night of the full moon cast a silver glow over the Ashridge pack's territory, the air crackling with anticipation and dread. Emily, now in her 26th week of pregnancy, stood at the edge of the compound, her heart pounding as she watched the pack prepare for battle. Her decoy maps had lured Victor's rogues to the river, where Rowan and his strongest warriors lay in wait, but the plan's success hinged on precision. The baby kicked fiercely, its alpha energy syncing with the moon's pull, and the pseudo-bond with Rowan pulsed, a lifeline amidst the chaos. Rowan approached, his leather jacket taut over his broad frame, his golden hazel eyes glowing faintly. You're staying here, he said, his voice firm but laced with concern. The wards will hold, and Tess is with you. Emily crossed her arms, her belly straining her sweater. I'm not helpless, Rowan. I made the maps, I should be there. His jaw clenched, but his tone softened. You're carrying our child. If something goes wrong, Victor's coming for you. I need you safe. She glared, the bond flaring with her frustration. And I need you to come back. You're not invincible either. He cupped her face, his touch gentle, sending a spark through her. I'll come back, he vowed, his voice low. I promise. Before she could argue, he kissed her forehead, the bond humming with his resolve, and strode toward the forest, Marcus and the others following. Emily's chest ached, the baby kicking as if protesting his departure. Tessa appeared beside her, her braids tied back, a knife strapped to her thigh. He'll be fine, Tessa said, squeezing Emily's shoulder. Rowan's the strongest alpha I've ever seen. Emily nodded, but fear gnawed at her. What if the maps don't work? What if Victor sees through them? They'll work, Tessa said, her voice fierce. You're smarter than he is. Come on, let's get inside. They retreated to the main house, where Lila and a few others guarded the non-combatants. Emily paced the living room, Mochi weaving between her legs, her senses heightened by the bond. She felt Rowan's adrenaline, his focus, and then, a sharp jolt of pain that wasn't hers. "Something's wrong," she gasped, clutching her belly, the baby kicking frantically. Lila rushed over, her silver hair glinting under the lamplight. "What is it? Your lupus?" "No," Emily said, her voice trembling. "It's Rowan. I feel him. He's hurt." Lila's eyes widened, but she stayed calm. "The bond's strong. Focus on it, Emily. Tell me what you sense." Emily closed her eyes, the bond a thread leading to Rowan. She felt his pain, sharp and burning, but also his determination. "He's fighting," she whispered. "At the river. They're outnumbered." Tessa cursed, grabbing her knife. "I'm going out there." "No," Lila said, her voice sharp. "We hold the line here. Emily, keep focusing. You're connected to him, use it." Emily nodded, her hands trembling as she sank onto the couch, the bond guiding her. She saw flashes, Rowan's claws slashing, blood on the riverbank, Victor's silver eyes gleaming. The battle was brutal, and Rowan was at its heart, fighting to protect her and their child. Hours later, the bond surged with relief, and Rowan staggered into the house, bloodied but alive, supported by Marcus. Emily rushed to him, tears streaming down her face. "You're okay," she sobbed, her hands hovering over his wounds. "Barely," he said, his voice hoarse, a tired smile on his lips. "Your maps worked. Victor's pack took the bait, but he got away." She glared, her relief warring with anger. "You promised you'd come back in one piece." He chuckled, wincing. "Close enough. You felt me out there, didn't you?" She nodded, the bond pulsing warmly. "I thought I was going to lose you." His eyes softened, his hand brushing hers. "You won't, not ever." As Lila tended to his wounds, Emily stayed close, the bond a quiet anchor. The battle was won, but Victor's escape meant the war wasn't over. The morning after the battle, the compound was a hive of recovery, pack members tending to the wounded and repairing damaged wards. Emily sat in the medical room, her joints aching from the stress of the previous night, watching Lila stitch a gash on Rowan's arm. The bond hummed between them, stronger now, and she couldn't shake the strange sensation she'd felt during the battle. A surge of energy, not just Rowan's, but her own. "You're quiet," Rowan said, his voice low as Lila worked. "What's on your mind?" Emily hesitated, her hand on her belly, the baby kicking softly. "Last night, when I felt you fighting, something happened. I didn't just feel you. I felt power, like I could do something." Lila paused, her needle still, her eyes narrowing. "Describe it." "It was like heat," Emily said, her voice uncertain. "In my chest, my hands. I wanted to help you, Rowan, and it felt like I could." Rowan's eyes widened, his gaze locking on Lila. "Is that possible? She's human." Lila set the needle down, her expression thoughtful. "Human, yes, but bound to an alpha and carrying a hybrid. The baby's energy is amplifying the bond, and Emily's tapping into it. It's rare, but not unheard of." Emily's heart raced, the bond pulsing. "You're saying I have powers because of the baby?" "Not powers exactly," Lila said, her voice calm. "Influence. The baby's alpha energy is flowing through you, enhanced by the bond. You might be able to channel it, push it outward, defend yourself, maybe even strengthen Rowan." Rowan leaned forward, wincing at the movement. "Can you teach her to control it?" "Maybe," Lila said, resuming her stitching. "But it's risky. Her lupus makes her body fragile, and the baby's energy is strong. We'd need to be careful." Emily shook her head, overwhelmed. "I don't want to be some werewolf superhero. I just want to keep my baby safe." "You will," Rowan said, his hand covering hers, the bond sparking at the contact. "But if you can protect yourself, It's one less thing I have to worry about. She met his gaze, his eyes fierce but warm, and nodded. Okay, I'll try. But if I end up setting something on fire, it's your fault. He grinned, a rare lightness in his expression. I'll take the blame. Lila finished stitching, her voice firm. We'll start small, meditation, focus exercises. Emily, you need to rest first. Your body's been through enough. As they left the medical room, Rowan walked beside her, his arm brushing hers. You're full of surprises, he said, his voice soft. I didn't expect this when I found you. Me neither, she admitted, the bond humming. But I'm starting to think I can handle it. His eyes softened, a flicker of pride in them. You can, and I'm right here. Emily felt the baby kick, the strange energy stirring again, and for the first time, she didn't feel powerless. With Rowan and the pack, she was finding her strength. Rowan's wounds from the battle were worse than he'd let on, and by evening he was feverish, his skin pale despite his stubborn refusal to rest. Emily found him in his room, slumped in a chair, his breathing shallow. The bond pulsed with his pain, a mirror to her own worry, and she knelt beside him, her hand on his arm. You're burning up, she said, her voice sharp. Why didn't you tell Lila? It's nothing, he muttered, his eyes half-lidded. Just a scratch. A scratch doesn't make you look like death, she snapped, standing. I'm getting Lila. He grabbed her wrist, his grip weak but firm, the bond flaring. Stay, he said, his voice hoarse. I don't need Lila, I need you. Her heart skipped, the bond urging her closer, but she pulled back, her cheeks flushing. Don't do that, she said. Don't use the bond to guilt me. You need help. It's not the bond, he said, his eyes locking on hers, intense despite his fever. It's you, Emily. You're keeping me grounded. She hesitated, torn between fear and the pull of the bond, then sat beside him, her hand resting on his. You're an idiot, she said softly. You could have died out there, and you're still acting like it's no big deal. He chuckled, wincing. Part of the job. Alphas don't get sick days. Well, you're taking one now, she said, standing. I'm getting Lila, and you're not arguing. Lila arrived quickly, her satchel in hand, her expression grim as she examined Rowan. It's infected, she said, her voice tight. Rogue claws carry venom, slow-acting but dangerous. I can treat it, but he needs to rest. Rowan groaned, leaning back. I can't rest. Victor's still out there. You'll be no good to anyone dead, Lila said, preparing a poultice. Emily, keep him here. He's stubborn, but he listens to you. Emily raised an eyebrow, glancing at Rowan. Does he? News to me. He smirked, his eyes glinting despite his fever. Don't push it, Carter. Lila applied the poultice, her hands steady, then turned to Emily. Use the bond, she said quietly. Your energy can help him heal, like he's done for you. Emily's throat tightened, the memory of their kiss flashing in her mind. How? Touch him, Lila said. Focus on the bond, let it flow. It's instinct. After Lila left, Emily sat beside Rowan, her hand on his, the bond humming. This feels weird, she said, her voice soft. I'm not a healer. You're more than you think, he said, his voice rough. Just stay with me. She closed her eyes, focusing on the bond, the warmth in her chest spreading to her hands. A faint glow pulsed where their skin touched, and Rowan's breathing eased, his fever cooling. Emily gasped, pulling back, her heart racing. What was that? She asked, her voice trembling. You, he said, his eyes soft. You're saving me, Emily. She looked away, overwhelmed, the bond a lifeline between them. Don't get used to it, she said. But her voice was warm, and as she stayed by his side, she felt the bond deepen, a connection she couldn't deny. Rowan's recovery was slow but steady, thanks to Lila's poultices and Emily's unexpected influence through the bond. By the end of the week he was back on his feet, though still pale, and the pack's mood had shifted. The battle's success, bolstered by Emily's decoy maps, had earned her grudging respect, even from skeptics like Mara. Emily felt the change in their glances, less hostility, more curiosity, and it gave her a cautious hope. At a pack meeting in the hall, Emily stood beside Rowan, her hand on her belly, now so large it drew every eye. The baby's kicks were constant, its energy a quiet hum syncing with the bond. Rowan addressed the pack, his voice strong despite his recent injury. "Victor's weakened, but he's not done," he said, his eyes scanning the room. "Emily's maps saved us, gave us the edge. She's pack, and she's proven it." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and Tessa grinned at Emily, nudging her. "Told you they'd come around." Mara stood, her sharp features softer than usual. "I was wrong," she said, her voice clear. "The human, Emily, did what I couldn't. I'll protect her and the heir, same as any of you." Emily's chest tightened, surprised by the gesture. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady. "I'm not here to replace anyone. I just want my baby safe." Mara nodded, a flicker of respect in her eyes, and sat. Rowan squeezed Emily's shoulder, his touch grounding, the bond humming. "You're doing good," he whispered, his breath warm against her ear. After the meeting, pack members approached Emily, offering nods or quiet words of support. Caleb, the young wolf she'd helped bandage, grinned shyly. "You're tougher than you look," he said. "Thanks for the maps." Emily smiled, her heart lighter. "Just doing my part." Later, as she walked with Rowan to the main house, the bond pulsed warmly, his presence a quiet anchor. "They're starting to see you," he said, his voice soft. "Not just as the human, but as one of us." "I'm still not sure I belong," she admitted, her hand on her belly. "But it feels better." "You belong," he said, stopping to face her, his eyes intense. "With the pack. With me." Her breath hitched, the bond urging her closer, but she stepped back, her cheeks flushing. "Don't push, Rowan, I'm still figuring this out." He nodded, his expression unreadable. "I'll wait, as long as it takes." As they parted, Emily felt the baby kick, a reminder of the life tying them together. The pack's acceptance was a step, but the bond, and her feelings for Rowan, were a challenge she wasn't ready to face. Emily's 28th week brought a new intensity, the baby's energy overwhelming her fragile body. Her lupus flared, her joints swollen and painful, and the bond with Rowan was her only relief, his energy easing the strain. But late one night, as a storm raged outside, a sharp pain tore through her abdomen, stealing her breath. She clutched her belly, gasping, and stumbled to the door, calling for Lila. "Lila!" she cried, her voice breaking as another contraction hit, too early, too fierce. "It's happening!" Lila arrived, her satchel in hand, followed by Rowan, his face pale with worry. "It's too soon," he said, helping Emily to the bed, the bond pulsing with his fear. "It's the hybrid," Lila said, her voice calm but urgent as she examined Emily. "The baby's ready, even if her body isn't. We need to act fast." Emily gripped Rowan's hand, her nails digging into his skin, tears streaming down her face. "I'm scared," she gasped, another contraction racking her. "I can't do this." "You can," Rowan said, his voice steady, his eyes locked on hers. "You're the strongest person I know, Emily. I'm here." Lila prepared the room, her movements swift, directing Tessa to fetch supplies. "Emily, focus on Rowan," she said. "The bond will help. Let his energy flow." Emily nodded, her breath ragged, and clung to Rowan, the bond a warm thread anchoring her. His energy surged through her, easing the pain, calming the baby's frantic kicks. Hours blurred, the storm's thunder echoing her cries, but Rowan never left, his voice a constant murmur of encouragement. Push, Emily, Lila said, her hands steady as the final stage began. You're almost there. With a scream that tore through her, Emily gave everything, the bond blazing with Rowan's strength. A cry pierced the air, sharp and fierce, and Lila lifted a tiny wriggling form, its eyes glowing faintly gold. It's a girl, Lila said, smiling as she wrapped the baby in a blanket, handing her to Emily. Emily sobbed, cradling her daughter, her dark hair matted, her tiny fists waving. She's perfect, she whispered, the bond humming with a new connection, the baby's energy syncing with hers and Rowan's. Rowan leaned close, his eyes wet, his hand brushing the baby's cheek. She's ours, he said, his voice rough with awe. You did it, Emily. She looked at him, the bond deeper than ever, and smiled through her tears. We did it. As the storm faded, the pack gathered outside, their howls a chorus of celebration. Emily named her daughter Luna, a nod to the moon that had shaped her life. With Rowan beside her, the baby in her arms, she felt a fragile peace, but Victor's shadow lingered, a threat to the family she'd fought so hard to build. The Ashridge Pack compound was a fragile haven in the weeks following Luna's birth. Emily, still weak from the premature delivery and her lupus, found strength in her daughter's golden eyes, a mirror of Rowan's. The bond between them had deepened, now encompassing Luna, whose tiny alpha energy pulsed like a heartbeat, tying their family together. But Victor's shadow loomed, his ultimatum unanswered, and the pack's patrols reported rogue movements closer than ever. Tension hung heavy, a storm waiting to break. Emily sat in the nursery, a cozy room painted with Tessa's artistic murals of wolves and stars, rocking Luna in her arms. The baby cooed, her tiny hand clutching Emily's finger, and the bond hummed with Rowan's distant presence, out-reinforcing the wards. A knock at the door startled her, and Tessa entered, her braids tight, her expression grim. Rowan needs you downstairs, Tessa said, Emily. It's serious. Victor's pack was spotted an hour ago, massing at the northern ridge. Emily's heart sank, her arms tightening around Luna. How many? Too many, Tessa said, her voice low. Rowan's calling everyone in. We're bracing for an attack. Emily nodded, standing carefully, Luna stirring against her chest. Take her, she said, handing the baby to Tessa. Keep her safe. Tessa hesitated, her eyes fierce. You sure you're still recovering? I'm sure, she said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her. I'm not hiding this time. In the main hall, Rowan stood with Marcus, Lila, and the pack's warriors, maps spread across the table. His eyes found Emily's, softening briefly before hardening with resolve. You shouldn't be here, he said, his voice low as he approached. Luna needs you. Luna needs us both alive, Emily countered, crossing her arms. I'm not sitting this out, Rowan. Victor's coming for her, for us. I want to help. His jaw clenched, the bond pulsing with his worry. You're barely healed, if something happens. Then we face it together, she interrupted, her voice firm. You said I'm Pack, let me act like it. Rowan studied her, then nodded, a flicker of pride in his eyes. All right, your maps worked before. Help us plan the defense. They gathered around the table, Emily's fingers tracing the ridge on the map. The northern approach is narrow, she said. If we funnel them there, your fighters can hold the line. Use my decoys again. Make them think we're spread thin. Marcus raised an eyebrow, impressed. Smart, but Victor's not stupid. He'll expect a trap. Then we give him one, Rowan said, his voice cold. We let him think he's winning, then hit from the flanks. Emily, you stay here, coordinate with Lila. Before Emily could argue, a deafening howl split the air, followed by screams and the crash of breaking wood. The hall shook, and Rowan's eyes glowed gold, his voice a growl. They're here, now. Chaos erupted as rogues breached the wards, their silver eyes glinting in the firelight. Rowan shoved Emily behind him, his claws extending as he faced the intruders. "Get to the nursery," he shouted. "Protect Luna!" Emily ran, the bond screaming with Rowan's fury, her heart pounding as she reached the nursery. Tessa stood guard, Luna in her arms, a knife in her hand. "They're inside," Tessa whispered, her voice tense. "We need to move." But before they could, a rogue burst through the door, his scarred face twisted with triumph. "The pup," he growled, lunging for Luna. Emily's instincts surged, the strange energy from the battle at the river flaring in her chest. She threw out her hands, a pulse of light erupting from her palms, knocking the rogue back. He hit the wall, stunned, and Tessa finished him with a swift slash. "What was that?" Tessa gasped, clutching Luna. "I don't know," Emily said, her hands trembling, the bond pulsing with Rowan's shock. "But we need to get out of here." They fled to the safe room, a reinforced bunker beneath the house, as the battle raged above. Emily's heart raced, the bond tying her to Rowan, to Luna, a lifeline in the dark. The safe room was a cold, concrete chamber, lit by a single bulb. Emily held Luna close, the baby's warmth grounding her as Tessa barred the door. The bond pulsed with Rowan's pain and fury, telling her the battle was far from over. Muffled growls and crashes echoed above, and Emily's chest tightened, the energy she'd unleashed still tingling in her hands. "What was that light?" Tessa asked, her voice low, her knife still drawn. "You blasted that rogue like you were, I don't know, a superhero." Emily shook her head, her voice shaky. "I don't know. Lila said I could channel the baby's energy, but I didn't expect that." Tessa's eyes widened, a grin breaking through her tension. "You're full of surprises, Emily Carter. Rowan's gonna lose it when he hears." "If he's okay," Emily whispered, her hand on Luna, the bond flaring with Rowan's struggle. "I feel him, Tessa. He's fighting, but he's hurt." "He's tough," Tessa said, her voice fierce. "He'll make it, we all will." A sharp knock at the door made them jump, and Marcus's voice called through. "It's me, open up." Tessa unbarred the door, and Marcus stumbled in, blood streaking his face, his dark eyes grim. "We're holding them, but Victor's inside the compound," he said. "And we've got a problem. Mara's gone rogue. She let them through the wards." Emily's blood ran cold, the bond pulsing with betrayal. "Mara?" she gasped. "She apologized, said she'd protect me." "She lied," Marcus said, his voice cold. "We found her messages to Victor. She's been feeding him intel since you arrived." Emily's jaw tightened, anger surging. "She put my baby in danger. Where is she?" "With Victor," Marcus said. "They're heading for the main house. Rowan's after them, but he's outnumbered." Emily stood, Luna in her arms, the energy stirring again. "I'm not hiding anymore," she said, her voice steady. "If Mara's with Victor, I want to face her." Marcus shook his head. "You're not a fighter, Emily. Stay here." "I'm Luna's mother," she snapped, the bond flaring. "And I'm done running. Take me to Rowan." Tessa nodded, her eyes fierce. "I'm with you. Marcus, lead the way." They moved through the compound's chaos, Marcus clearing the path, Tessa guarding their rear. Emily clutched Luna, the baby's energy syncing with hers, fueling the strange power in her chest. They reached the main hall, where Rowan faced Victor, a lean, silver-eyed rogue whose presence radiated menace. Mara stood beside him, her sharp features twisted with defiance. "Rowan," Emily called, her voice cutting through the growls, the bond surging as his eyes met hers. Victor's gaze locked on her, his smile chilling. "The human and her pup," he said, his voice a rasp. "Surrender them, Alpha, and I'll spare your pack." "Never," Rowan growled, his claws extended, blood dripping from a gash on his chest. Mara sneered, stepping forward. "You chose a human over us?" she said, her voice venomous. She's weak, Rowan. She'll destroy you. Emily's anger flared, the energy surging. Weak? She said, stepping forward, Luna in her arms. You betrayed your pack, Mara. You're the one destroying them. Mara lunged, but Emily raised her hand, the light pulsing again, slamming Mara back. Victor roared, charging, but Rowan tackled him, their fight a blur of claws and blood. The pack closed in, subduing Mara, and Emily stood firm, the bond and Luna's energy her strength. The battle ended with Victor's defeat, his body broken by Rowan's claws, his rogues scattered or captured. Mara was restrained, her betrayal a wound to the pack's trust. Emily stood in the hall, Luna in her arms, her body trembling from the energy she'd unleashed. Rowan approached, bloodied but alive, his eyes soft with awe and worry. You're incredible, he said, his voice rough, his hand brushing her cheek, the bond flaring. That power, you saved us. Emily shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. I just wanted to protect Luna. And you. He pulled her close, careful of Luna, his forehead against hers. You did, he whispered. You're my mate, Emily, not just because of the bond, but because of you. Her heart raced, the bond no longer pseudo but true, a deep connection born of trust and love. Rowan, she said, her voice trembling. I'm scared. I love you, but this world. It's so much. I know, he said, his eyes fierce. But we'll face it together. You, me, Luna, our family. She nodded, tears falling, and kissed him, soft but fierce, the bond sealing their love. The pack watched, some smiling, others respectful, and Tessa clapped, breaking the tension. About time, she called, grinning. Lila approached, her silver hair glinting, her eyes warm. The bond's true now, she said. You've claimed each other, not just for Luna, but for yourselves. Emily blushed, clutching Luna. What does that mean, for us? It means your pack, heart and soul, Lila said. And Luna's your legacy. She'll need you both. Rowan's arm tightened around her, his voice a vow. We'll be ready. As the pack began to heal, Emily felt the bond's strength, no longer a tether but a partnership. She'd found love in the chaos, a home in the pack, and a strength she never knew she had. The days following Victor's defeat were a blur of recovery and reckoning. Mara was banished, her betrayal a scar the pack would carry, but the rogue threat was broken, their remnants fleeing into the wild. Emily, Rowan, and Luna settled into a fragile peace, the compound rebuilding its defenses and trust. Emily's lupus remained a challenge, but Rowan's energy, now freely shared through their true bond, kept her stable, and Luna's presence gave her purpose. One evening, Emily sat with Rowan on the porch, Luna asleep in her crib inside, the forest quiet under a crescent moon. The bond hummed, a warm thread tying them, and Emily leaned against him, her hand in his. We did it, she said, her voice soft. Victor's gone, Luna's safe. Rowan kissed her temple, his voice low. For now, rogues don't vanish completely, but we've shown them we're stronger. She turned to him, her eyes searching. What about us? The pack accepts me now, but I'm still human. Will that ever be enough? You're more than enough, he said, his eyes fierce. You're my mate, Emily. The pack sees your strength, your heart. Luna's proof of that. She smiled, her heart full. I never thought I'd end up here. A werewolf's mate, a mom to a hybrid alpha. It's insane. He chuckled, his arm tightening around her. Insanes are normal now, but I wouldn't change it. Marcus approached, his dark eyes serious but warm. Rowan, we've got reports of rogue stragglers near the border. Small group, no threat yet. Want me to handle it? Rowan nodded, standing. Take a team, but don't engage unless they attack. We're done with bloodshed for now. Marcus glanced at Emily, a rare smile breaking through. You did good, Carter. Pack's lucky to have you. Thanks, she said, her cheeks flushing. Keep the rogues away, okay? Count on it, he said, heading off. Rowan sat back, pulling Emily close. You've changed us, he said. The pack, me? I was lost after Clara, but you brought me back. She kissed him, slow and deep, the bond humming. You saved me too, she said. From Victor, from myself. I'm all in, Rowan. Good, he said, his eyes glowing faintly. Because I'm never letting you go. As the moon rose, Emily felt the pack's strength, her family's love, and a future she was ready to fight for. Spring arrived, softening the Oregon forest with new growth, a mirror to the pack's healing. Emily stood in the compound's clearing, Luna in her arms, now 3 months old, her golden eyes bright with curiosity. The pack had gathered for a celebration, not just of Luna's birth, but of their survival, their unity. Emily's lupus was manageable, Rowan's energy a daily gift, and their true bond a foundation stronger than any ward. Rowan stood beside her, his arm around her waist, his presence a quiet anchor. You ready for this? He asked, his voice warm, his eyes on the pack. Emily nodded, smiling. Ready? They're our family now. Lila stepped forward, her silver hair braided, a leather-bound book in her hands. Today we honor Luna, our alpha's heir, she said, her voice carrying. And Emily, our sister, who brought her to us. The pack cheered, Tessa loudest, her grin infectious. Emily's heart swelled, the bond humming with Rowan's pride. Say something, he whispered, nudging her. Emily blushed, stepping forward, Luna waving her tiny fists. I'm not good at speeches, she said, her voice clear. A year ago I was alone, just wanting a child. Now I have Luna, Rowan, and all of you. You're my home, and I'll fight for you, always. The pack roared, their howls echoing through the forest, and Rowan kissed her, soft but fierce, the bond sealing their love. You're perfect, he murmured, his eyes glowing. Tessa approached, Mochi in her arms, the cat purring contentedly. He missed you, she said, handing him to Emily. And I'm stealing Luna for a bit, she's too cute. Emily laughed, stroking Mochi's fur, Luna giggling in Tessa's arms. Deal, but don't spoil her too much. No promises, Tessa said, winking. As the celebration continued, with music and laughter filling the clearing, Emily and Rowan slipped away, standing at the forest's edge, Luna back in Emily's arms. The bond hummed, a promise of forever, and Emily felt whole, her fears replaced by love. What's next for us? She asked, leaning against Rowan, Luna cooing between them. Anything we want, he said, his voice soft. You, me, Luna, our pack. We'll build a future together. She smiled, kissing him, the moon above a quiet witness. I like the sound of that. As they rejoined the pack, Emily knew she'd found her place, not just as a mother, a mate, but as a woman who'd faced the impossible and won. With Rowan and Luna, her heart was full, and the future was theirs to shape.